EMZT Radio is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/EMZT. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. For you, the listeners of EMZT Radio Podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. That's audibletrial.com/EMZT. For the February Women in Horror Month, I have a local Women in Horror, Miss Kimberly Christine, the local ghost tour lady, or the Ghostess as they call you.
Ghostess with Mostest.
Ghostess with Mostest. And she has a website, cityofdarkangelstours.com. She does the local tours down here at the London Bridge, the American home of the London Bridge. And thank you for coming.
Thank you for having.
Thank you. So yeah, you're featured on our Women in Horror.
Yay!
Yay! And it doesn't always, because it always just has the film actresses. You know, that's what they mainly.
Oh yeah.
But
Hollywood.
Yeah, but because there's a womeninhorrormonth.com website that are listing more artists, authors.
Good. That's perfect.
Yeah, musicians, just more.
Dominatrixes.
If they do it in February.
Right?
So when I heard about your little tour, I'm like, we need to get you in here. We need to talk to you. And even though I went on the tour a couple times, she was so nice to let me go for free to check it out and also take pictures the second time. And even though you said everything verbatim the second time, I was still entertained.
Of course. You know, as I say, it's always like in theater, right? It's a different show all the time, even though you're like, no, it's the same show.
Yeah. So how many years have you been doing this, like, total? Because I know you've been moving around a bit.
Yeah, I started in 2014 in Savannah. I lived out in Savannah for a year, and that's when I got my paranormal start. I worked at the Gribble House Paranormal Experience, which was a big trolley warehouse that got built on top of a property where an triple axe murder occurred in the late 1800s.
Wow.
So eventually in the 40s, the property got demolished and this trolley warehouse got built up, and people that were working on the trolleys during the nighttime in the garage would see shadows, things would move on their own, and they started to freak out, and they eventually got investigators inside, and they said, yeah, the place is heavy with activity, and so then they started to do the research, and they found out about the triple axe murder that occurred in one corner of the warehouse. In the warehouse, then in another corner there was like slave quarters, and then on the opposite end, closer to one of the entryways, the street, there was a mass burial for the Revolutionary War soldiers. So it was just a hotbed of activity. Yeah. So the trolleys outgrew the property, and at nighttime, the garage was empty. So what they started to do was turn it into an investigation site at night. The office was still in that main building, so it was empty and vacant. And they're like, "Hey, let's get a couple extra bangs for our buck out of it, right? And bring people in and unleash them into the darkness with equipment, you know." So that was where I got my equipment use.
They provided equipment, or you had?
Yes, no, they had all the equipment. They had REM pods, of course, you know, EMF detectors, spirit boxes, yes. Ghost meters, all different kinds of fun little toys that we all got to learn and explain to the guests when they would come in. And it would generally run from like 8 o'clock until 10. So we'd give people like an hour and a half, investigation in the darkness, yeah. You know, so it was scary on top of it. And that's really when I had my experience talking with the other side, and 3 to 5 nights a week, I would talk to the dead. They would pretty much welcome us when we would come into work for the night. You'd hear our names, Kim, come through the box. It was like, ooh, goosebumps. I've been called a bitch. Sorry. Can we swear?
Yes. Okay. Let it fly. Let the fucks fly.
I've been called a bitch. I've been called an idiot by the spirits, not by the guests. The particular hallway where the triple axe murder occurred, like literally where the women's bodies were found, it was almost like a storage room hallway. And we would bring people in there to investigate, and it didn't really seem to be that of a hotbed spot, they think that maybe they had crossed over,
Okay.
but maybe there is just a little bit of a lingering of them. And generally, as hosts and moderators, we would walk around to all the different groups when we would separate them in the different areas and check on them, like, "Hey, how you doing? Are you talking?" Because sometimes people don't like to talk to the spirit box. They just sit there and wait for voices to come through.
They don't know what to say. A lot of the times, you have all these questions, but you don't know what would be appropriate.
People check it out, like, what do I say to nothing?
Yeah, well,
well, talk to yourself. If you were to talk to yourself, what would you say? Knowing that maybe there's somebody here, like from 100 years ago, and their spirits are people too, and maybe they had a favorite food, or they like to drink alcohol and get drunk, and maybe they played sports or wore clothing, like what was their favorite outfit, what's their favorite color. I mean, all these different questions. So sometimes people would just freeze up, and we just wanted to make sure that they were having a conversation. And if they were just sitting there frozen, just listening to that, the static, click, 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 come through the box, it's like, talk.
Say something. Yeah.
So the minute I walked in through the doorway, I'm like, "Hey, how's everyone going?" Sure thing, right through the spirit box, bitch. And I went, "All right, it looks like you're good. I'm going. I'll let you guys be. Obviously, I'm not wanted here." So I turned around and I left, and it was like the funniest thing ever. Like I said, the shit that you hear, coming from the other side is, idiot. I've been called an idiot. Okay, yeah, an idiot, but no, I'm not a bitch.
Right. No, you're not. No, you're very friendly.
Right.
Yeah,
Don't piss me off, though.
I just love. So the tour here. What research did you do to get?
I went to the History Museum. We all like to go online and find stuff, but sometimes that stuff is like half-ass. Mm-hmm. And you really want to get really into it. After I left Savannah, I moved to LA, and I decided to do the research down in Hollywood because, oh my God, the fodder there and the things that talk about was like so overwhelming. Yeah. And it probably took me about a year to polish that tour off. But the resources I had there, the downtown library in LA was 8 stories high.
Yeah.
So you can imagine all the floors. There was like, where do I start?
I think they had like 2 or 3 floors of just occult and paranormal. Right?
It was so crazy. So here, we only have one library.
Yes.
And it's very small.
One
and then,
little.
Yeah, tiny little library.
And their occult section's like this big.
Like 5 books in the occult section.
Because it's taboo.
Oh my gosh. Conservatives out here. So then I went to the History Museum, and I probably got just as much, information there. I wasn't able to pull a lot of books out, but I got to see a lot of things. As far as like the newsprint goes, oh my God, it'd take me a year to get through all of those, and sadly they don't have microfiche or anything like that where I could sort through. I literally would have to open up a book and like turn every page, right. And so it's just like old fashioned. Come on, Havasu. We can find plenty of jobs for people to do. Let's get a filing system going here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was pretty much the research I did. I started it when I first came out here in 1917, 2017 in May, and I started my first tour October 13th. That was Friday the 13th. And I pretty much had most of my research done at that point. But it's overwhelming. There's so many different things that I talked about, and sometimes you just got to, hone in, and it does. It takes a lot of polishing, and, you got kids on the tour, you want to talk about a lot of things, and, I would talk about the Tommy knockers in the mines, but the bottom line is we're doing a tour down by the bridge in the lake. Yeah. We're far from the mines. So at that point, it really doesn't scare people that much because you're not bringing them to the mines. Right. If I brought them to the mines, that'd be one thing. So I had to keep it there, keep it distant. Yeah. Keep it close to the where we were literally at. So it's and then I was just busy going to school, and it was just overwhelming, and I just said, I just need to put everything on hold for now. So I would start it back up again another 6 months later, a special event, and then it was just like, okay, let me just get it back open again. Let me do it, because I've always loved doing it. I have a master's in theater. I love talking. I love telling ghost stories. Always has as a kid. I've been an only child, so I've lived a lot of my life alone. You know, I like to a single parent. You know, my mom was always out drinking and partying, so I was home watching scary movies. I loved it. I loved fear.
So when did you get introduced to scary movies?
Probably young. Probably really young.
He's Boom Doom started at 4.
Oh, 4. Wow. I don't even remember an age, but there's just something about being home alone and watching scary things. It's just that, ooh.
And then the stories are really fascinating too. Yeah. The story, the history of the story and the anniversary dates and all these things that pop up and what you're not supposed to do. But they do it anyway because it'd be a boring movie if they didn't. So.
Well, and it's the true stories, like the ghost stories. I'm not really into the slasher stuff. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I mean, that gets kind of old. I like real ghost, spooky, supernatural, because with those stories comes a script, and with that script comes research. With that research comes a writer who literally talked to somebody who does paranormal investigations, who deals with spirits. So anytime, just in general, any movie you see, there's a lot of historical fact behind a lot of it, and they try to get to truth. And as much as it can be fictional, there is truth behind it. Some things might get tweaked a little bit. Like, ever seen Interstellar?
Yes, a long time ago.
So, for your audience and for everybody, Interstellar is a kind of a science fiction-y movie starring Matthew McConaughey.
Right.
And there is a paranormal element in there, and it will blow your freaking mind when you get to that point and you realize... And I mean, I'm getting goosebumps now talking about it.
Yep.
In the theater, I got goosebumps when that paranormal element came out, and it was like, holy shit. Yeah. This goes beyond paranormal. This is science as well, and other dimensions and time travel, and holy crap. So it really opened up my thinking too in that. And it's just like, wow, I mean, our universe is fucking amazing.
Yeah It is, that the stories that we can come up with,
right?
I mean, humanity just comes up with all these stories of what it would be like out there, or what would come out there, come down here, and why come down here.
Right. And then you get into aliens and stuff. You're like, well, I know for some reason they're not as scary. I don't know why. I think because they're literally matter. They're something, rather than energy.
Ethereal. Yeah. And I personally like sci-fi horror because they do mix real science with paranormal elements, but it's like a possibility that they could just inject you with something and all of a sudden you're seeing spooks or ghosts or something, or you can move things with your mind. I mean, that's what I like about science fiction. That the paranormal can be in a vial.
Yeah, exactly. It's there. Yeah. It's there. I mean, they're traveling through it. We haven't gotten there yet. Obviously,
Not very far anyway.
Someday, hopefully I'm still alive, to experience that, whatever it is, that mind-opening thing. Like the Matrix. I watched the Matrix again. Actually, I've Matrix 3. Yeah, it's okay, but sorry.
Yeah.
But sorry for the filmmakers on that. It wasn't as good as 1 and possibly 2. But
the story behind all that I mean, the total backstory of why this was going on, why they were in this world that's not
a reality,
not the present.
Right?
Yeah. Just the whole. I mean, you got it got to 3 before you're like, oh my god, there's something behind.
So the reality. What is reality?
Yeah.
Donnie Darko.
Oh, I know. Oh, what was the one? There was one about his sister. That was just as twisted.
Oh, is it the second one?
Uh-huh. That's his sister.
I don't know if I'd seen it.
That's his sister.
The girl that was doing the dancing.
Yeah. She's even more messed up.
Oh.
And you're sitting there going, what?
She's in Cellar Door. I remember Drew Barrymore said that, Cellar Door. The sound of Cellar Door.
Anyway, so what days do you do your tours?
I do my tours on Fridays and Saturdays. And I pick one various weekday because a lot of times people work weekends and they can't make it to the tour. So by having a tour on a Monday night one week and maybe a Tuesday night the next week, I can vary it up and then kind of be assured that, somebody is going to come and take the tour. It's been slow going out here just because, it took time. It took me probably about a good year and a half before I really started to break ground in Hollywood. But and Havasu is a much smaller place.
Yes.
As much as we do get tourists, people like to do the boating thing and then they go to bed early.
Yeah.
And that's the only bummer about this town. Yeah. It's not a late night town, and it's really hard to get people to come out at 7:00 at night to take a ghost tour.
I was like, what? There's a ghost tour? Oh yeah, let's go.
Yeah, and if nobody books, then I don't drive all the way there and do a tour. Because I have to get ready. I have to make sure all the batteries are fresh from the equipment and make sure everything is working. And then, head on down. And I'm not going to just stand there and hope somebody shows up and then be like, okay, so there just went an hour and a half. Now I'm just going to go back again. Yeah. So I usually will have a cutoff an hour and a half before the tour time. If nobody books, then at that point, nobody's going to book.
Right.
So then I do an auto close on the tour. But and that's why it's important to get people book a tour before 5:30.
And we can do all this through the website, right? Book the tour.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah. And I prefer it. It's easier that way because I work all day long, and it's really difficult for me to take calls. I'm doing massage. I'm working on clients. I'm teaching. During the day. Just the other day, I had a guy call, and I got back to him, but that was in between the time that I was just getting ready to go into work on a client, and I felt bad. I'm like, I can't take your information down and get you confirmed, but please go onto the website and book the tour through the website. And it was a donation that I gave away for Christmas. And it was for the yacht club out here. Yeah. So I gave some tickets away, which is nice, That was fun. And I had somebody call, and I'm like, just all I gotta do is just book on the website. That's it. Because then I send a confirmation email. It talks about where we meet, what time, what to expect, how to dress, bring your phones fully charged, all these different things too, because I want people to be able to know how to use equipment, so they don't have to go out and buy it. You can use your phones. Our phones are a very expensive piece of electronical equipment. Spirits are pure energy, so of course they are going to be able to manipulate those devices, and I just want to make sure everyone's got those devices fully charged so they can use them and play around. Yeah,
it's just so much easier with the technology we have to, like, on your phone you'll see, booked, or no book, or you're like, when we were trying to hook up, it was raining. You're like, and you texted me, no, we're not going out. It's raining.
No, that's a rare occasion out here for that to happen. Yeah. But when it did, or really did. super, super, super windy. Because we had some pretty brutal winds, and when you're down by the water and stuff, it can get pretty choppy, and the winds do pick up when you're by the water.
And it gets really cold.
Yeah, very cold, especially in the winter. A lot of people are like, you're in Arizona, we can wear shorts and flip-flops. No.
Go ahead, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Just because you're from Minnesota doesn't mean it's going to be warm. I know, hey, I'm not bashing the people from Minnesota because I'm from Minnesota. So I'm bashing myself. Yeah. But yes, I know what it's like when you go down to Arizona in the winter. You get a little arrogant and you're like, I can wear shorts. Okay, it's Jimmy Buffett, Margaritaville down here all year long.
No. When it's nighttime, no, it's not.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Except in the summer, then yeah.
Oh gosh. And that's unfortunate too, because once the heat starts picking up, there's no way I can do a tour when it's 90 degrees at night.
Yeah.
It's too confining, and it's just hot, and so usually around the end of May I have to cut the tours and hold off until usually the end of September, the first week in October again.
When it cools off.
And that's a long chunk of time to not do a tour. And when I was in Hollywood, I did them year round.
Well, yeah, the weather is better there.
And so I do miss that. So, the tours are very, hit or miss with the weather and different things like that. So it's spotty. But
so, I mean, you're highly entertaining. Like I said, even though I did the tour twice, I wasn't bored.
Good.
I was fascinated. I still loved hearing all about the stories of our London Bridge. And you even made an extra creep factor by saying that the bodies from the river got onto the bricks because it was on the river going.
That residual haunting, and the residual junk.
Yes, that's how the bridge is
attaches itself. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, thinking about that, people are like, "Well, how are spirits attached to the bridge? It's a different bridge." It's like, but thinking about all the mud and the muck and the decomposition of the
right. It's still there. It can't be washed off.
Yeah, no, it can't be washed off. I mean, what did they like? Take every brick and scrub it with like bleach?
No, we know they did not do that.
We know.
No.
So if you really want to gross somebody out, tell them that I dare you to go up and lick one of the bricks that are by the water.
Because one of the ladies like moved away when you're touching and said they're here, right here.
Right?
She's like, oh,
yeah, it's right there. Just like slime grows, right? It can work its way up just like little bugs, you know.
And okay, so the tour lasts about an hour and a half.
Hour and a half, yeah.
Hour and a half. You do have to be in a little bit of good shape to do it. It's just the walking is fine. I was fine with that, but going back up those stairs are killer.
Oh, I know.
But going down and then walking along the channel, that was just
Actually, I make an effort once a week on Sundays. I run from Rotary Park, and I ran all the way to the bridge.
Yes.
And I made it up
Is
those
that 2 miles?
bitch ass stairs.
Yes.
Ran up the stairs, across the bridge, back down the other side, Rotary Park. Yeah, by the dog park, out of the back. Anyway, everyone's like, whatever, just shut up. But no. You'll see me like rubbing my hip because I'm still in pain from it. Yeah. I hauled ass.
Well, plus those stairs are set steep. They are steep.
It is, and there's 3 huge levels, you know, and so it is a good workout. Yeah.
And they're kind of slick too. Those stones are slick, so if you're not careful or you don't have any tread on your shoes, you can have an accident. So yeah. So her tour is very entertaining. I mean, you can go multiple times, and I've also been telling people when I was out saying, but if they're not really interested in talking about paranormal, then it's not for them.
Yeah, no, it's not. You know, and I've had people say, well, can I bring my 6-year-old? It's like, not really. Unless you're that parent that doesn't care what your 6-year-old watches and they're already watching rated R movies. Right. And I've had that. I've had a few people bring young kids like that. Mm-hmm. You know, I show some pretty graphic pictures, you know.
The heads on the spikes.
Yeah, right? Even though it's artwork, you know.
It's still gruesome.
Well, Jack the Ripper, you know, the victims, the real pictures
those,
of the women.
Those were gruesome.
Yeah. Oh. So it's like, you know, you sure you want to bring your kid? And I make sure I tell them that, just so you know, I show pictures of that. If you don't want your kids to see it, you know, even just talking about it, they're going to have a visual in their mind. Yeah. So,
oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
She shows these great actual pictures, all from the museum on her little iPad. So you have a visual as well as you telling the story.
Yeah, and so it's interactive, you know, and that's everything. People like to see photos.
Yes,
they like to experience the paranormal. So it's very interactive. I just don't sit and look and point, hey, look at right there's this. No, here's a picture of how this really looked.
Yes.
You know, so then it tells a better story, you know, because some people are visual, some people are audible, some people, you know, some people just, you know, process things differently and they like to see different things, just like, you know, when students are learning, they like, you know, they learn in different manners. So this way it keeps people like to see things, you know.
Yes. And she ends the tour it's like the last half hour is playing with the ghost hunting equipment, and sometimes you get results and sometimes you don't because people freeze up and get shy. I mean, I couldn't know what to say. I'm like, what do I ask that won't piss them off? Yeah. But then that's sort of what you need, is just a little provoking on them.
Sure.
Yeah. The favorite thing I heard was when that guy asked, how did you die? And the answer came up, Darcy.
Darcy. Wait, was that you? That was we heard water ski.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Water ski. Like, what?
Ski. Yeah, I was waiting for an answer. I was like, death by girlfriend or wife? What a bitch. And I almost was waiting to hear, yeah.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, she was
Darcy killed me. Yeah. I don't know how she did it, but she did it.
And since it's also, when you're ending, it's near some condos, do you ever get complaints? Because, you know, you do have to yell a little bit, or talk loudly.
The death whistle.
And the death whistle,
that
which
really
I have
scares.
pictures. I have pictures. You'll see them.
Yeah.
That was freaky.
Creepy. And I suppose, and a good thing people don't probably live in those condos, all month long or year round, because then they're going to be like, God, there's that creepy noise again. What the hell is that? People are screaming. But so far no complaints, and that's why the tour ends at 8:30.
Okay.
More than likely some of those people in there got their music louder.
Right.
Or either it's a prime time, it's a weekend. Every now and again I'll see people out on the balcony. They don't know what's going on.
Right. That death whistle, it chilled me. I was like, oh. But it works.
Yeah.
It works.
It'd be nice to know if we actually did draw a few spirits that were like, hey, yeah, I'm coming on over. I hear you whistling for me.
Okay, so what are the usual... I was trying to find what's the usual price of the tickets?
Tickets are $20.
$20. Okay.
And the reason why it's $20 is because you get to use the equipment. Most tours normally average from 15 to 20 as far as ghost tours go. Like if you do a normal historical tour down by the bridge, I believe it's $10. And that's just, daytime. Of course, people want to be scared. They want to pay a little bit more to be scared. Yeah. And the minute you flash that ghost hunting equipment in front of them and tell them, guess what? You're going to have hands on. You're going to touch it. You're going to experience it. You're going to hear from the other side. You may hear your name. It's like, well, So the ghost tours do tend to be more.
It's worth
because of that. Because it is an experience. It's not you're just sitting there listening to stories. You're going to be part of it. Yeah,
you're in it.
You are going to be part of it.
Yeah.
And I don't think $20 is too much to ask.
That's
there's certain, if you follow me on my social media, I'll run up some ads and I'll post specials. Right now, because it's Valentine's Day, I'm running a special. It's 50% off. And the promo code is Love Bites.
Nice.
And it expires the 16th.
Okay.
So in case, somebody wants to go out on Valentine's Day, I'm going to run a tour on Valentine's Day. That's because I'm single and I don't care, And there's a singles group out here in Havasu that I'm part of, and I let them know too. Hey, come on out, guys, and girls, sorry. Yes. People, come on out, do a ghost tour. Let's have fun. Get together with other single people. And
so it's almost a meetup.
Yeah, it is almost, But the special is out there for everybody, Valentine's Day, if you go with a significant other or not. So yeah, let's see if you got any old flames that are sticking around.
The love locks.
Right.
The love locks. Nice. Do you see your tour expanding in any way, adding anything else?
Well, the only other thing I thought about is literally going out onto the lake. I've done my girlfriend and her husband. We went out on their boat, brought the equipment. We did some things. We still heard stuff, but it was really cold and windy that night, and the water was really choppy. So we couldn't really make it out into the full lake. We were just making it out the channel. Like where we stopped for the tour, out that way, and we started to get out into the lake a little bit. It was like it just got too choppy, and we turned around and came back. But I would like to do almost like an overnight on a boat,
And there's a $50 tour.
Yeah, at least.
Yes, minimum.
Right? Because when we talk about spirits and ghosts, I'm sure a lot of people have heard of the fact that it's not just people that they can see references of. You can, like, if there's a car accident, I'm sure you've probably heard a lot of stories about people saying they can see a ghost car. Well, have seen the movie Ghost Ship?
Yes.
Same thing. And all of the accidents that happen out here on our lake every year, lots of ships crashing, people, getting killed, accidents happening. So there's going to be a lot of ghost ships that are out on our lake. So to be able to do an overnight, maybe say from 11 o'clock or maybe 10 o'clock to like maybe 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, to do an investigation in that sense. So people would get a nice sleep before they come in, and then go out on the lake and Bring all their equipment.
That might be new research you need to find is where people died.
Yes.
There's records of that. I think either the police has public records on it or the newspapers.
I've went to the police to ask about how many people have died on the lake, and they said, we don't know that, go to the city. I went to the city, they're like, we don't know that, we'll contact this person. We contacted that person, they're like, I don't know that. Then literally I went through I think 3 or 4 different transfers before they eventually transferred me to like the main state in Phoenix building. And then she said, well, we can't give you that information. And it's like, well, I'm not asking for names of people who died. I want a number.
Just a number.
I want a number.
How many? Yeah.
So, but then that just means now I have to research every single year between pretty much from when spring break is, pretty much through that period, to get numbers. And not only that, but getting names would be interesting too. Because if some of those names that we've been hearing are some of the names of the people that have passed on the lake, because if it's on average 6 or 7 people every year, and every year over the last 15 years, the last 10 years, the last 20 years, that's over 160, 200. I mean, it could be or more. We could be like 300.
Oh yeah, that's kitty.
Kitty out there. So yeah, so I mean that's a lot of people out in that little small area of the lake.
And then Copper Canyon, where people jump and dive off. There's been plenty of deaths down there.
I hear a lot of that. That would be a really nice place to go and do something.
There's sunken boats down there. I've dived down there, so I've seen them. It goes 60 feet.
That's pretty big. I think. And what was it? There was just rock. There's rocks down there.
Rock and like ledges.
It's like a cliff.
Ledges.
So they have to jump out far enough so they won't hit it.
Yeah, where they jump out, they need to jump at least 10 feet out.
Oh.
And a lot of the times they don't. So when they hit their feet, they hit the ledge. But not always. It depends on how the height of the water is.
Sure.
But it's less than 10 feet under the ledge. And I've been under that. There's tunnels down there. And I can't go in. I have a thing with the claustrophobia.
Small spaces. Yeah, I know.
I can't.
Like when I see those cave, I can never watch cave diving movies
because
I'm getting cramped in small spaces.
See, I'm getting chills.
I know, right?
I can't stand it.
That's like my fear. That's like my fear of dying right there is like getting stuck in it.
And then the damn catfish down that way are big.
Oh.
They look like snakes.
Oh, wow.
They're big. Yeah, and they're scary, and they look like big black snakes.
The couple that I went on the boat with, they had been out the previous weekend before, and because I would talk about the trolls under the bridge.
Yes.
Now I stopped talking about it because it is too childish, and I don't have enough kids on the tour, so that's all right. Focus on the ghosts. And I would bring up a little bit of a mermaid factor. As well as for the trolls, and they said, we had seen something very interesting, and it almost looked like a seal. They said it had weird back flippers, and it was big, and it moved really quick, and it did a weird thing. And they said maybe it was the troll that you were talking about, and I'm like, maybe it was a mermaid, and they're like, maybe,
or some mutated turtles we have.
Right?
We have turtles that have the big flippers. Yeah. I don't know if we still have them, but last time I was out with my dad, he caught big turtle.
Oh, wow.
And it had the huge flippers. And underwater, that looks like some critter. Like a sea critter. Oh, yeah. So, okay.
So doing investigations on the lake.
Yes, that's expansion.
But then that's also a huge liability.
Yes.
Because then there we are, late at night in the darkness, where another boat could crash into us, and then we'll be the next story that I sure don't talk about.
Because people don't always run the lights. I mean, when we saw them where we were, their lights weren't on.
See, and that's... Yeah, so it'd be very dangerous to do such, unless you ended up getting like the ferry, something big. But
I remember, didn't one of the spirits say that they traveled on the ferry?
I don't remember. Maybe the ferry was driving by. If I'm trying to remember that right.
Yeah.
Mm.
But yeah. So, are you also? I heard you might be also part of. Isn't there a paranormal group that meets up? Or
I
horror slash paranormal group?
I have a meet up, which is called Ghost Goosebumps and Gizmos in the City of Dark Angels.
Yeah.
And I would do monthly meetups where we would go to different places within the city and just do investigations, get people together, get people to experience some of it. I even had run paranormal investigation classes. So if kids want to get into it, because when I was in LA, I had a parent contact me saying that their kids are doing ghost hunting YouTube videos, and she's like, "But we fear that they really don't quite understand the whole whatever the kids aren't really getting it correct. They're just going out with the equipment and not realizing really what they're getting themselves into. Right. You know, like, do they need to know about cleansing? Do they need to know about not allowing attachments and about bullies and how spirits can control kids very easily? Possessions, you know, and so it's, you know, it was really dicey. So this parent contacted me, and you know, I ended up, you know, sitting together with the kids and telling them about the equipment and how to use it, how to talk to the spirits. And they went to one of the homes where supposedly the Black Dahlia had been killed. Oh. Yeah. Supposedly the person that was committed that crime. But anyway, yeah. So I like to do workshops in that sense. Right now, everything is private. If somebody contacts me, I haven't done a monthly meetup in a while, just because once I got back into working, and then I started the tours up, then it just became overwhelming. Like right now I'm working 6 days a week, but that's going to change because I'm going to be working smarter, not harder.
Right.
So I'm going to be renting my own space and doing massage. So I'm going to have my own business. I'm going to make my own hours rather than being under the, you know, being the victim of an employee, basically. Yeah. Being an employee and having to sit around for 6 or 7 hours and work for someone nobody's coming in. Yeah. But anyway, so I'm going to be getting my own business, making my own hours, which means I'm going to be able to open up more things, and I'm going to get back into my the investigations, the monthly investigations, and that's like free, you know, just people getting together, experiencing it. But I don't explain the equipment all that much, because come take a class. Yes. You know, because otherwise I'm wasting a half an hour to 45 minutes of my time telling people how to, you know, what's the difference between a ghost and a spirit? How do you use the equipment? This and that. It's almost like half of my tour. Right. You know? Right. So in a sense, I'm wasting all that time where we could just be getting in, setting up, doing an investigation, and having more time spending with attracting spirits and communicating with the other side. So that's the whole goal, is to be able to offer a workshop, and then that following weekend do a meetup, you know? Okay. And the workshops would be of course paid events, but the meetups would be almost like an excuse for everyone to get experience in,
and plus to meet other people.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And then from that point on, hey, if you guys want to go and branch out on your own and go here or go there or go to Kingman or go to Oatman or you know, you know, Route 66, if you want to drive down. Yeah, I mean you just. You know, there's so many things.
Arizona has historic spots. Yeah. So, yeah. And then come back and help you mark your maps to tell other people.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
For your ghost tour, what bothered me just a little bit was that the possibility of spirit attachments. Would you ever consider doing cleansings to make people feel better about bringing something home? You know, because it is a possibility.
Yeah, it is. I've really looked into even thinking about doing that for people's homes. Mm-hmm. I've read a few things. I'm in by no way a shaman, you know, when it comes to different things like that locally, but I have experience. I know different things. I'm also a Reiki master, so I deal with energy. I'm not a medium, you know, and but I am clairvoyant, and there's a big difference between those things.
Yes, there is.
Mediums can sense. Clairvoyance, we see things in our mind. Usually people who are creative are clairvoyants. Thinking with they're left-handed, but thinking with the right brain. So we're seeing patterns. We're thinking artistically. We're able to see images in our mind. And that's what happened when I was doing a pub crawl. I had a whole experience with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that story.
We'll get back to that.
Yes.
But yes, doing cleansings in homes.
Yes.
If I do a cleansing at home, I may have a clairvoyant moment where all of a sudden I'm seeing a vision or an image of somebody in my mind that, like all of a sudden maybe the image of a cat will come up, or a male or a young child. So something like that could definitely be the case. But doing homes is a pretty big event, is a pretty big thing.
Yes.
To have to prepare to do a home cleansing. People, a little bit easier. That's definitely when it comes, that's the whole reason why I ended up taking my Reiki Master course. I was
which she actually did in India.
Yeah. Actually, Reiki 1 and 2 I took in India. When I moved back to California, I had joined a Reiki group there, and the gal was teaching a Reiki Master class. And so the connection here, which is interesting, and I didn't know who this gal was. I just saw she was doing a Reiki class in the Valley, in LA. And we became great friends because we would do Reiki shares, which meant other people that were into Reiki would get a chance to practice, and we would all have healing sessions on each other. And then, nice. And she had been doing Reiki for so long, she said, I'm going to teach a master class. And it just so happened that I was getting into the paranormal, and I was watching a show, The Dead Files.
Yes,
and
I've seen that.
And the gal was saying that the guy of this property that they had decided to buy to do haunted tours supposedly in this property, the guy started to take over the personality of the male that was haunting the property.
Oh.
And the gal in Dead Files said, what you need to do is you need to find a Reiki master that could cleanse that energy out of you. And that's when I went, I have to do that. I'm like, I'm one step away. I'm there. I can take a Reiki master class and I'll be fine. Yeah. And that's when I said, I'm taking my Reiki master class. But anyway, so this gal that was the Reiki master, her and her husband owned an antique store in California called Freaks Antiques. And they had funky, weird medical equipment and dolls and a lot of creepy shit.
Wow.
Well, the house that they lived in had a double murder happen in it. Wow. So there's a lot of activity in it. And her, as a Reiki master, she was able to cleanse it and try to keep things at bay. But, the whole family has had some pretty spooky experiences. And somehow she ended up reaching out to Zach or somebody from the crew saying, you should come check our place out. I did an investigation in their store before. Yeah. Eventually, after a couple of years, the store ended up closing down. It was too much. It cost them too much money. Yeah. So they brought all their antiques into their home.
Oh, no,
so now,
no.
Right?
Oh.
So now their home has all of these things in it.
Cursed antiques.
So Zach and the gang did an investigation at their property. Oh, kitty cat. Yeah. Did an investigation at their property.
Oh.
And it was so funny because when I was in Savannah, I got to be part of a reenactment scene when they came to the property that we worked at. Oh. So we had this connection of Ghost Adventures.
Right.
And so it was right before I moved out here. It must have been in 2016 or 2017. I believe that the title of the episode was called The Freak House or something like that. Yeah. So we all got to gather at our house. There must have been 20 of us that all got in the living room and sat and watched the episode. Oh. So that's an interesting connection, and all of that comes down to my Reiki mastership. Yes. So she was my Reiki master instructor.
Wow.
And so it was so funny because then right before Christmas, the Travel Channel reached out to me and said, hey, we're interested in your ghost tours and Havasu hauntings. Would you be interested in talking with us? And I said, of course. Of course. So once again, I'm like, oh my God, I might be part of the Ghost Adventures again. It's all coming back to me. But they haven't reached back out to me. Oh, come on. Travel Channel, Ghost Adventures, I've got some good theories here. I've got some good experience.
Yes.
Come on, give me a chat.
They're always so busy.
I know, right?
They're always so busy because they were even at Renaissance Fair in California where I was with Fred Ward.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They had him.
That's so funny.
That was years and years ago.
But so cleansings and homes and, and all that.
Also, like at the end of the tour, maybe, like before they leave, do a quick cleansing.
I used to bring smudge stick. But it just started to fall apart in my bag, getting carried around. It's like, easy. But I did. I would take it out and I would just burn it a little bit, and then I would waft it over the people, and then after a while, it was like, it just starts to break apart in my bag, and I would have to put it in a special pocket, and it would still probably get crushed and fall apart. But I would talk a little bit about it, and and it's something I would talk about it in Hollywood a lot. It's something that I don't talk here as much. Just because it's still I'm still tweaking the tour, and figuring out, okay, this is what I used to talk about in Hollywood all the time, but not in regards to Hollywood, but just in general for the paranormal world. And I would talk about cleansing and using salt, and I would bring up supernatural, right? And I would, tell people, okay, if you're not familiar with salt and cleansing, if you watch Supernatural, I'm sure you're really familiar with it.
Yep.
So, and I always try to bring it back to other TV shows or movies that are out there that I know people watch. Because, sometimes people don't like to read. They don't like to learn those things on their own. They just like to get their fact through fiction, which, like we were saying, some of it does have authenticity. There is truth to it. Yeah.
Even if it's a smidge.
Yeah. So, that definitely, it would be nice to do some sort of a little cleanse.
And plus, I think because LA, the culture is a little different here, so people are not as quite open to that type.
A lot of the people that, quite a few of the people that would take my tours that loved it were Hispanics. They love it. They have such a rich supernatural and spiritual culture as well.
Yes, they do.
And they would talk openly about the dead. Of course, when you think of Day of the Dead and all that, it's a celebration. They wouldn't fear it as much. But when I was in Savannah, Georgia, 50% of the population is African American. Do you know how many African Americans came into that ghost tour? Maybe 3.
Oh no!
Talk about superstitious.
Yes,
they would, and the one family that did come in, they got sick to their stomach because they were in the slave quarters and they knew what that whole room was about.
Yes, and
they started to get really nauseous and they started to feel ill, and it's like, just breathe, just don't let it get you. Let them know that you're stronger than them. You can't let that affect you. The empathy or whatever it is that you're feeling. But yeah, I haven't gotten many African Americans on my tour, and though since I started in Savannah, very few. And they'd come on the tour, and I'd be like, "You are brave, you are brave," because they really do. I don't know about that. So yeah, it's interesting how cultures, vary and all that. The funny thing, because I was married to a guy from India, and do you know what a ghost in India is called? Boot. Boo.
Oh.
Boot.
Okay.
Yep. And it's BHOOT, I believe. Boot. So thinking about it, when the ghost says boo, right?
Boo.
And I just couldn't believe it. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. I wonder if there's any kind of correlation to that. So, and they have, their different versions of spirits, and yeah, so it's fascinating, and that's talk about a spiritual culture there, all the gods and
the deities and yeah.
So,
do you ever reach out to other people in town to get stories?
I don't, and I know I need to more, and there's times I do think about posting, hey, if anyone's got a good ghost story, tell me. Sometimes, you might get a lot of garbage, people just making stuff up, but you never know.
You can tell.
And then the next thing, I've got like 20 people are like, come to my house and investigate. I'm like, dude,
no.
I work, I have a real job. I can't do this every single night. So it does get overwhelming in that sense. So I really have to be careful when I ask people. So people will, if they bring out their story and they talk about different places and different, areas, and I'll be like, I'll make sure I check that one out. But really when it comes down to it, almost everybody can have some sort of a supernatural experience in their home if they're open to it.
And there's where you can expand your business, get more people to work with you, maybe later.
Sure.
Later, to help with that. Because then there's where your extra business could come from, visiting other people's homes.
Oh, paying people to go and cleansing homes. Yeah.
But that's later. I mean, that could be a later. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, Havasu is such an old community because we have all of our snowbirds here. I tell a lot of people that come on our tours, when they're like, there's not ghosts in Havasu. I'm like, you want to make a bet? Yeah. Do you know how many seniors have passed away out here?
Yes. Especially have you been to the nursing home? The main nursing home. In there, it's creepy.
Which one is it?
The main one off of Kearsarge.
Okay, no, I don't know.
It's the original nursing home.
Oh,
and going in there, you feel chills. It's cold. It's always cold. They have the heat on. It's still cold. It's still cold.
I know a good friend of mine, she works at Prestige.
Yes.
And she said...
That's a newer facility.
She's like, people pass away here quite often, and a lot of us here that work experience the spookiest things. She's got her beauty salon in there.
Yep. There's also one in the other one.
Oh.
Well, it's a little one.
Oh.
But yeah, I mean, those would be great places to check out.
I know, right? It is. But yeah, once again, you're dealing with senior spirits.
Yes.
And at that time, I don't know how many senior spirits would really still be stuck behind. At that point, they've lived their life. They're ready to move on. It's the younger ones who still have those burdens. I call them spiritual hoarders.
Right.
They just can't seem to leave this life. And they continue to take stock in their old life because they can't move on. It's like people refusing to, flow with the times and get a new iPhone or something. They just don't. I still love my iPhone 4, right? But no, but yeah, it's just I don't think there's too many old spirits. I mean, sure, there may be some. Maybe still trying to figure out how things are. See, we're talking about it.
1 second.
Good. Moving on. So the senior spirits, I think they probably do cross over a little bit more than the younger ones. The younger ones still feel that they didn't live their life fully. They didn't live it enough. There's still things that they wanted to finish here. I still wanted to go here. I still wanted to go to Disneyland. I still wanted, the older people are like, yeah, whatever. I'm ready to go on. I'm ready to recycle my soul and to get popped out somewhere in like Ireland or whatever, I don't know. But yeah.
So to say with paranormal investigations, there's always new things to check out. Well, because there's now these new creepypastas, well, not new creepypastas, but creepypastas that are also urban legends. I mean, do you still consider that it's almost like doing more homework for the paranormal to learn about new spirits or new creatures or something? New equipment, maybe.
The new equipment, yeah, because that's something that's always, one of the paranormal groups that, I joined up in LA, they had like the creepiest, I wouldn't even call it a spirit box. It was something totally different. It literally was almost like a guitar speaker that they had rigged and wired up in such a manner. It was literally like an echo in a tunnel that you would hear the spirit's voice, but you'd have all that white noise was gone.
Oh.
So it was freaky, and it would like echo. It was, but and I can't remember the name of it, but I'm sure if you snoop around, you'll be able to find out. I've seen a few posts about it, but it was, I want to think it was maybe like $300 or $400 for this thing, and it was really unique. We used it in one of the spaces when we were up in California at a ranch up in the valley. But equipment, yeah, always good having new equipment. I mean, energy is energy, and spirits are going to manipulate it regardless. So it can be, an ancient form of, EMF detectors. That's still gonna, light up and everything. But the bottom line is to hear, and even still to me, how is it we're hearing a spirit? They don't have vocal cords. They don't have, they don't have a voice box. They don't have lungs. How are we hearing a voice? Yeah. And that's what blows me away. And I know one guy, he was kind of being a little bit of a debunker, a Debbie Downer, or Danny Downer.
Danny Downer.
Saying, well, ham radio, will pick up frequencies and this and that and da-da-da-da. And it's like, okay, that's great, ham radio. But I'm not on a walkie-talkie. It's not like I'm a truck driver pushing on a microphone button and talking into a microphone. No. I'm talking to the air around me. The EVP, the spirit box we have is just a radio with a speaker. Yeah. There's not a microphone.
It's open channels, open frequency channels.
Yeah.
To pick up anything.
And I'm like, so how is ham radio hearing what I'm saying? Mm-mm. They're not hearing what I'm saying. Mm-mm. Only the spirits around me are hearing what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. So, and he's like, don't get upset. and I'm like, but I'm trying to prove my point. Yeah. See where I'm coming from. I'm not talking inside of a radio. No. I'm talking to the air around me. Mm. There's always going to be, debunkers in a way. They've got their own little theories, but
because one of the new equipments I was liking was the thermal cameras.
Oh, the FLIR?
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. To where, it's cold, it's a cold
a
ghost, either a ghost imprint or a spirit actually moving.
Right.
And then you can see who's with you, like around you, like people, regular people.
Yeah.
And then you see cold, because you can find those cold spots and go, okay, let's stand here. Or it's just going to show like an air pocket.
That's a vortex. A vortex. We talk about vortexes.
Yes.
Vortices.
Oh, she covers everything.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And it's so hard. I had a good friend on the tour. So your friends are going to be your most critical, right? Mm-hmm. That's when she's like, you should just talk about ghosts. I'm like, no. Yeah, but I can't talk just about ghosts the whole time, because there's not always ghosts. I want to talk about ghosts in the form of energy and how that energy affects us and how we can be energy. So that's when I go into the vortices and the chakras in the human body and how our energy goes beyond that. So in a way it is spiritual. Yeah, it still is spiritual, even though it's not a ghost, but that's how we become a ghost. That's still our system that's working. That brain of ours is an antenna. It's beep, 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 beep. It's picking up feelers and sensors around us. That's what it is. Beep, beep.
Wow. Yeah, it's big. It's too big to think about. It's too big, and it's kind of scary too, because it's around. It's like it's in the air.
And we'll never know until we get there.
Yeah.
When we pass away, we're like, oh shit, that's what I was talking about. I was so wrong.
Right.
I was so wrong. And that's why, when I've had spirits call me a bitch or an idiot, it's like, well, I'm sure one time you were me and you were full of those same questions, Okay, now you're on the other side and you're like, oh, what's going on over here? I'm pretty bored. Look at this girl. She's like thinking she knows her shit. But really, she don't know it. We're just stuck here. Yeah.
Have anybody on your tour ever been touched?
Not on the tours.
There are spirits that are strong enough to touch.
Oh, yes. I haven't had people touch. Usually when people get into a dark space and they're walking around, they're like, I felt something touch me.
Yeah.
But when we were outside in Hollywood doing the investigation, nobody ever said it. Because they could see, so they don't make that correlation. But when you're in the darkness, yep, it's something. For me, I had my very first experience with night paralysis.
Yes. And
that was something that I never really believed in. And I thought exactly what everyone else says. It's just you dreaming, waking up from a dream and your body freezes up. Mm-hmm. But I was wide awake and I'd only been asleep for 2 hours. So I really wasn't even in my REM phase at that point. And I just finished my pub crawl and got home. It was about 1:30. I woke up again. It was about 3:30. My whole body was just tingling, like this crazy, creepy sensation. And it was so strange. And I thought, what the heck? I've never felt like this before. And then the end of the bed started to sink.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, okay, I think something's happening. And I was laying on my belly, and I turned to look, and my husband at the time, he was sleeping next to me, and he's not into any of this. So the last thing I wanted to do was scream, so I had to keep as quiet as much as possible, not to freak him out. He probably would have left me then. But I beat him to that punch anyway. But so I turned and looked to see if I could see a shadow or a light or something or anything. And it was the minute I turned to look, all of a sudden I got this big bear hug from behind, literally squeezed the air out of me. And I was completely froze. And a smile came on my face because I thought, wow, I'm actually having an experience. This is really happening to me now. I was pretty excited. So I just let it go, and just let it happen. And then it let up. And the only thing I did was I turned and whispered on, the opposite shoulder. I said, you can't be here. You have to leave. And a couple minutes later, I had a vision of a police officer walking away in my mind. There's that clairvoyance, right? Mm-hmm. He was literally walking away. And that night when we were in one of the speakeasies, it was from the 20s, we were communicating with somebody. And it was a gentleman, a male spirit, who was around, and we had believed either the 40s or the 50s. And we had gotten some information out of him. He had committed suicide. So it was pretty trippy, So when that happened, I knew right away. I said, I just had my very first experience with night paralysis. And now I believe all those other people when they say it happens to them. Mm-hmm. Although that was the first time, and it's been the last time. It's never happened to me again. But it really had me physically experience what it felt like. Now, if you've ever gotten electrocuted or mm-hmm. gotten close to a switch mm-hmm. and your whole body freezes, you'll stand there kind of shaking, right?
Yeah.
And you're frozen in time, just kind of like when you watch Ghostbusters, right? And Bill Murray is going through the cards for this kid, this big curly-haired kid, right. And the kid guesses it right. Bill Murray keeps saying nope, and electrocuting the kid because he wanted the hots for the girl, right? So the kid kept guessing it. And, eventually he shocks the kid, and the kid, the gum just flies out of his mouth, and it's so funny. That's like an epic moment.
That was brilliant.
But, then that's the feeling. You're just like, you're freezing, and your body is kind of shaking, but you can't do anything. Your eyeballs can move, and that's probably about it. Mm-hmm. And that's what I tell people that experience was like. Mm-hmm. It wasn't my muscles tensing. It was literally the fact that I was being electrocuted. Pure energy was in my body. And I don't believe in possession. I believe spirits manipulate. They don't possess. Influence. That's the other word I'm thinking of. So, children don't get possessed. They get influenced. So, if there's a spirit hanging out with your child, and your child's like, yes, I have an imaginary friend, and the mother's like, oh, that's nice, what's his name, right? And they go on. Okay, then mom all of a sudden starts hearing her son complain about her cooking, and then the son starts swearing. Well, because that spirit is influencing this boy. I've had bad friends who influenced me, mm-hmm, and I've mm-hmm. talked badly to my mom because of this friend. So the spirit doesn't need to be inside my body to do it. They can just be standing next to me going, your mom's pasta is terrible. Yes. Tell her it fucking sucks. And that kid will say that. And that mom's like, where did you hear that? My imaginal friend, Daniel. Yeah. No, you didn't. So it's like Ralphie, wash your mouth out with soap. Who did you hear it from? oh. When it really was Dad.
Dad said it. There's the influence.
Yep. Yeah. So I don't believe in possession. I believe in influence.
Influence. Well, okay, that's because I sort of thought, yes, possession is possible because their personality is changing. Mm. So, but their influence, I can agree with that.
Sure. But the electrical, the current that just ran through my body, my whole body just froze right up. And if my husband wasn't there, I probably just would have sat up and said, okay, spirit, let's talk. And I would have grabbed my equipment, turned it on, and said, tell me about yourself. Yes. And I wanted to so bad, but I couldn't. I'm like, you gotta go. I'm so sorry.
Freaked. Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, it's no fun. I had the night paralysis to where I couldn't even speak. To call for help.
Well, and that's kind of how I felt too.
Yeah.
Everything was locked up.
Yes.
Like I said, I think my eyes were the only thing that could move.
Yes.
And if even I remembered moving my eyes, but I smiled because I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I smiled as best as I could.
But night paralysis is not fun to experience.
Yeah.
I'm going to agree with that.
Wow.
It's not. I wasn't enjoying it. It happens several times.
Oh.
Even happens here.
Ooh.
It happens here. So sometimes.
Uh-huh.
So it's becoming less and less because I am stronger. So.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And you have to be, like when I would have kids on my tour, and or even the parents, I would have to tell the parents, you have to be stronger than the spirit. Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to school and you're letting that bully beat you up every time for that lunch money. You have to stand up to them, and that's spirits will get away with it because guess what? You can't see them. They're like, nah. I'm gonna keep scaring you
until you say no.
No, and you do. You have to just stand up and say, listen, I know you. I know what you're doing, and it's not working. Got to get the hell out of my house. Move on. Whatever it is that you're doing, you got to get out of here because I don't care about you, and you're not going to ruin my life.
You're not welcome here.
Yeah.
Yes. Have you ever contacted or been contacted by other people in the paranormal, like local witches or other psychics?
I have. There's actually a couple of different groups and people that have reached out to me. One, her name is Margaret Van Coops, and she runs the Sumeris Center off of Acoma. And she's a psychic, and she does a lot of workshops on past lives and regressions. She reached out to me through my meetup group. And she wanted to start some things up at the center. And of course, this was when, I was so busy, I couldn't do things. I had done a few things, but I really wasn't able to get on there. But even at this point, I may reach out to her now that a little bit of my life is going to be opening up in time because I want to get back into doing my Reiki shares and Reiki workshops, and she's got the perfect space for it. Okay. So I'll probably be reaching, and I actually got together with them last week. And I'll be getting together with her this week because me and her are going to do an exchange. Nice. I'm going to do massage on her, and then she's going to do some crystal therapy and some metaphysical stuff as well. She's really big into the alien thing. Mm-hmm. So if any of you out there, definitely pay the Sumeris Center a visit. I don't know if we can allow shout outs here.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Plug.
But yeah, she's got some interesting things to say and background. And then another gal that I ended up getting in touch with, her name was Holly Dove, and she used to do some spirit. It was the spirit fair out here for quite some time. Mm-hmm. And she was the one who found the vortices out here in Havasu.
Didn't she do the drum circles?
Yes, she did the drum circles out here.
The drum circles.
But now she's outgrown all that pretty much. I mean, she's getting older, and she just it's more difficult for her as she gets older. Mm-hmm. But she ended up finding the vortices via pendulum.
Right.
So so that's somebody, and she is also psychic. I want to think she's a Reiki master as well. I'm forgetting at this point, but
is she also Native American?
Maybe, I think so.
I mean, Holly Dove. I think that's a Native American.
I think. Well, yeah, exactly. I know that's Dove's not her last name. Okay. I think it's and I've thought about changing my name. I don't like my last name. It's an adopted name, so I use my middle name, Kimberly Christine. Yes. But I've had a few people say, oh, you should be this or you should be that, or make up like some stage name. Right. And I'm like, I don't know. I just don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I could do a stage name. It's just weird. So
because having a nom de plume kind of separates your life a bit.
Yeah. And it does create a persona and a character about you, and because I'm a costume designer, and that there's that element to me that I've dressed up, and I do have a costume when I do my tours,
which is steampunky. It's
so
awesome.
It is
awesome. She does the whole thing: top hat, the cute little dress. I love that.
I still got a lot of work to do yet. More stuff, more layers, more more ruffles.
Yeah.
But
a lot of time you can't show it because it is windy. Well, right now it's windy, it's cold.
Exactly. Yeah. So I do the trench coat.
Yes.
And that's when I was in Hollywood. I was doing like a 50s, kind of a 40s or 50s with the, the fedora hat and the trench coat. Yeah. And I would dress up Flapper. So when I was in Hollywood doing tours, I would run the gamut of costume. I wouldn't have the same costume. I'm ADD, right? So my mind's all over the place. I'm like, no, I got to look like this day, and this day, and this day. I would change my looks quite often. I've also been called chameleon.
Right.
Because I change. Yes.
That's awesome. Well, this is the part where you plug your stuff and let people know where we can reach you.
So you can reach me at thecityofdarkangelstours.com. I am in Lake Havasu City, Arizona. And I also go under the search engine of Havasu Hauntings, just because it's easier to type sometimes for people. And plus, if people come out here and they want to see if Havasu is haunted, and they type that, Haunted Havasu, or Ghosts in Havasu, then more than likely Havasu Hauntings will pop up versus City of Dark Angels. So those are the places that you could reach me out. Of course, I'm on Facebook, City of Dark Angels Tours, and or Havasu Hauntings. You can type either or and find me. And I do Instagram, but I'll be honest, I don't do Instagram enough anymore. Doing all those damn hashtags take up so much of my time. I'm happy with just doing a Facebook post and just post, I don't know. I'm really getting tired of Instagram. There's too many social medias to control and take care of. But yeah, so that's my plug.
All right, and thank you very much for joining me tonight.
Thank you for having me, girl.
And do check out her tours if you are into the paranormal and want to learn about the local Lake Havasu legends.
Rocks, money, and elephants. They can't bathe the idol, but wash his reflection in elephants. Oh, how is this relevant? The dusty crow nesting in the rafters, like some view-worn silence and solitude. You can't see her fledglings, but hear their plaintive cries, and she is truly who's unstoppable. It's impossible, impossible to think that you can own the title known as Mother Crow of Juggernaut. She won't approve the move of her Juggernaut, and she'll debate it's her estate, it's her Juggernaut. She found a vacant lot, a Juggernaut, abandoned cot, a cozy spot, to tend her home like a roller's bone. This Mother Crow of Juggernaut never let you resurrect the antiquated train wreck known as Juggernaut. What? Juggernaut. What? Stallions pulled the chariot and killed disciples with their wheels. The gods would give salvation in exchange for their devotion. Yeah, I can't believe what you've heard, but believe what you see. The thing is 40 feet and stationary, doubt it be in motion. See the dusty crow nesting in the rafters. She guards her view in silence and solitude. Don't know how long she's been here, won't know the day she'll leave. Yeah, she is truly who's unstoppable. It's impossible, impossible to try and dethrone the present reigning Mother Crow of Juggernaut. She won't approve the move of her Juggernaut. Yeah, she'll debate it's her estate, it's her Juggernaut. She my deep obsession for the night. I've been wired to desire everything that's dark inspired. If it's wicked, I'm addicted. If it's vile, I go wild. Many things most find appalling, I find calming. Just as long as it's dark, scary, creepy, macabre, strange, unusual, or raw. Thinking freaky, eerie, dreary, and horrific thoughts. Sleek, morbid, obsolete, sinister, and sickening. It's unnerving how disturbing. I'm the same for anything dark. Drinking red wine by candlelight on a dark and stormy night. I couldn't feel more alive. This is my own paradise. Wearing black and red tights, planning for the day I die. Plan to have my heart put in a jar of formaldehyde. Sticking for a vampire in my everyday attire. Into shocking visuals and partying at funerals. Celebrating Halloween every day of every week. Sipping on a sweet cyanide spike drink while meditating to the sound of squeaky springs and screeching out. If there's dread, doom and gloom, I am always in a better mood. It's useless to explain the twisted function of my brain. I'm wide-eyed, mesmerized, and hypnotized by anything dark, scary, creepy, macabre, strange, unusual, or odd. Thinking freaky, eerie, dreary, and horrific thoughts. Sleek, morbid, obsolete, sinister, and sickening. It's unnerving how disturbing. I'm insane for anything dark.
Don't you understand, Rachel? She never sleeps.
EMZT Radio is brought to you by NordVPN, and I don't know about you guys, but I've had that call from the bank. I hate that call from the bank, and you know what call I'm talking about. It's that call that your information has been hacked and somebody's trying to use it in another country. Well, like I said, I've had that happen to me before. NordVPN is a hack-proof encrypted tunnel for online traffic to flow. Nobody can see through the tunnel, and nobody can get their hands on your internet data. NordVPN gives you peace of mind every time you use the public Wi-Fi, access your personal and work accounts on the road, or just want to keep your browsing history to yourself. You know, when you're talking with private browsing. But they have 5,100 servers in 62 countries, and that gets updated weekly. So, you know, you're hit with that Article 13 in Europe. Maybe you want to check out NordVPN before this happens. And that way you can access an American server and not miss out on your favorite YouTubers. At least your favorite American YouTubers. There's no data logging. And they also have an extension for the Chrome browser, which is lightweight and user-friendly from the first click. I know a lot of you guys use Chrome out there. You definitely need to pick this one up. There's a 24/7 automatic support. Some of the best people in the world will take care of you in this. And you can do that through live chat or emails. You can have up to 6 simultaneous accounts, and there's even an automatic kill switch. Oh yeah, you want to get around that Great China firewall? This is the place for you to do it. And going to the Middle East? This will work too. It's compatible with most operating systems, including Windows, Mac, and Android. Double data encryption for increased anonymity. And I'm telling you folks, it's something you need, especially because you don't want to get that phone call from your bank going, oh yeah, by the way, you've been in Italy the last couple of days, haven't you? No? Onion over VPN servers, unlimited bandwidth. They accept all the major credit cards, PayPal, and Bitcoin. Dedicated IPs available on request, and free security extras. You can try them right now, risk-free, 30-day money-back guarantee, and they've got that CyberSec suite and an ad blocker. Folks, this is something you definitely need to have. Click the link in the description right now and you can get up to 3 years worth of service.
The show that puts the story back into history.
History is all about discovering the why. And I think that in that process, it's important to never take the story out of history.
Making history come alive, one episode at a time. Visit theMondayAmerican.com to get more. Dive into the Monday American. Don't worry, we'll be gentle.
I don't want to! I'm afraid!
Don't be afraid!
No. Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Hey, this is Karen Stever, and you are listening to EMZT Radio.
And to understand what Kim does for her nighttime paranormal ghost tour job, gonna have you listen as she takes us on the tour.
Welcome, guys. City of Dark Angels. So dark in a sense because this is a very dark city, isn't it? Yes. But also when I was in LA, that was the City of Angels. So I ended up in the City of Dark Angels. So I try not to keep a new name. You know, I didn't want to do the new name because I kind of like that name. But
it's your brand.
Yeah, exactly.
It's your brand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I didn't say the City of, Los Angeles Angels, or then I would have had to really have screwed that up, and I'm like, no, I got to rename it. So I didn't have any city in there.
Right.
But right here, we are at the site of the dedication for the London Bridge. Now, the two gentlemen that you see in here, this was October 1971, that the bridge officially opened for business, in a sense. The guy over on the left hand here, his name is Robert McCullough, and he's the founder of the city. He was a chainsaw manufacturer, and he wanted to come out here because he was looking for a space to build his factory, and also he wanted to test some outboard motors as well. And he was hoping to find a river or a lake or a place that he could do that on. So when they were flying up overhead, he looked down and he had seen this area, and he said, oh my gosh, that looks like that's it. He came down and he decided to open up his plant. He had almost 400 workers working for him. He went to Kingman in 1966 and sat on the steps of the courthouse and decided to buy 26 acres of land out here. And he ended up paying $17.86 an acre.
Oh.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Just under $3,000, for 26 acres. So he decided to build a community out of that, and from there he wanted to start to sell some of the property as well. So he would fly people on some of his private jets out here from all over the U.S., free of charge, all expenses paid trip to come out to Havasu, hoping that they would buy a piece of that property. He did that for a couple of years. And eventually, once it started to grow, the community, he needed somebody to come in to help develop that community. And that's who this gentleman is, Cornelius Vanderbilt Woods. He was a community developer, and he also was the architect of a lot of theme parks. And of course, Disneyland was the one theme park that he ended up designing. So if it makes any sense how the roads are out here, I don't know, maybe it's like a ride, you're going up and around.
Yeah, definitely roller coaster, definitely.
So that's what the two of these gentlemen are going through the city plans. And we got a real photo of them here.
Oh.
So a lot of the images that I picked up, I went to the History Museum here. So have you guys ever been there?
No.
Yeah, it's cool. You can go there. It's really cool. Yeah.
Wow.
So once they had the community developed and everything was rock solid, they thought, well, now, we've got this wonderful lake here, but we just need something else, right? A sculpture, something to bring people out here. I don't know, an amusement park, who knows? And that's when he heard about the London Bridge being sold. And they decided to take up on it, and he purchased the London Bridge for about $2.4 million. And it cost about another $5 million to disassemble it and bring it back over. Now, the reason the London Bridge was up for sale is because it was sinking. And it was sinking about an inch every 8 years. The bridge was still pretty new. It was only 130 years old. And they just didn't realize that the traffic that was going up over the bridge was going to cause so much weight on the bridge, because it was when London was in its heyday and it was really becoming an industrialized city. And So the weight of it was putting too much, and the design, I guess, really wasn't all that great as far as the structure goes in the bottom of the river itself. So that's when they said, all right, let's can it, right? Let's take it apart. So they literally took it apart. And so here's an image of the bridge in London, and you can see how many people are going over it. They said sometimes it could take almost up to an hour just for people to get across the bridge because of how many people were there. It was so busy. So, of course, they disassembled the bridge. They had to mark every single brick, kind of like putting it back together as a puzzle piece, right? And then they put all the stones in a ship, shipped it through the Panama Canal. From the Panama Canal, it went to Long Beach, California. From Long Beach, California, it got loaded up onto trucks and trailers and drove up near Dallas. Just some images of the bridge. Of course, the channel was not there. You know, that the channel had to be created. So they ended up having to create the mound so they could build the structures itself. But yeah, did I tell you it also cost another $5 million just to put it back together? Yeah. So which was a pretty hefty cost. So this is kind of like the view looking up that way. Right. Look at how barren it still is up in there, you know.
Wow.
So 1968 was when the bridge was actually purchased, and it took 3 years to go through that whole assembly, disassembly, and putting it all back together. So here you're going to see the actual design, the blueprint for the London Bridge. And you see it right here. It was about 1,001 feet long, and what we have here is about 951. So we've lost about 50 feet from the original. So the original design here from the side and from the top, it's running right along the bottom. But you're wondering what this goofy thing is right next to it. Well, that's the old medieval bridge. Oh. That the London Bridge replaced. Oh. That medieval bridge was 699 years old. Wow. It had a nice run, right? It lasted really long. And all those little, the pillars, and they really weren't even. They're pretty, you know, they weren't symmetrical. That's what I was trying to say. And there was 19 arches. Ours only has 5, right? This had 19 arches. So this is how the image of it looked side to side. Now, that original medieval bridge had a lot of different things on it. There were shops and everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold here, and then eventually we'll walk down. So keeping that thought in your mind. John Rennie designed the bridge, and the blueprint was drawn up in 1823. So, and then in 1830 is when the bridge was actually built in London across the Thames River. So, that being said, let me just close this up, and then we'll just talk a little bit more here about ghosts and spirits. Yeah. Right? Yeah. We have to. Yeah. Right? All right. So that's the most boring part, right? So did you guys know that there's also a little tunnel that comes underneath here, and we have a little burial mausoleum here for these two gentlemen. Oh no! I'm just teasing. Well, that'd be cool. When we were kids, we go behind the stage now, just because their bones aren't here doesn't mean their spirits aren't. Right. So, a lot of times spirits will frequent and visit places that they have fond memories of. And that's exactly what I was telling you guys a little bit. Spirits don't like to hang out at cemeteries, right? They're boring. They want to go to places that they remember. Usually bars, theaters, playgrounds, schools, right? Like children. A lot of children have fond memories of school. A lot of those places are generally haunted, especially bars, right? Yes. That's, of course, a lot of memories. When I was in Hollywood doing the tours, a lot of hotels. Imagine all the illicit love affairs that were happening there and all those happy moments, right? So a lot of hotels when I was on the Walk of Fame doing that. So kind of the same thing, you know, just those are all places that have happy memories. But it's not always happy memories. It could be a sad memory as well. Now, the difference between a ghost and a spirit, two different things. So ghosts are what we usually call residual hauntings. What they are is a memory, something that happened so strong that it's forever burned and etched into the ether. We also call them imprints, right? You can't communicate with them. Usually ghosts can be seen, but not heard, right? Or felt, like you could with spirits. So if you were to see a ghost, if you were to clap and say, hey, over here, they would stop and look at you. They can also be considered a hologram. One of the most infamous holograms that we all know about is Princess Leia. Help me, Obi-Wan. You're my only hope, right?
Yes.
R2-D2 projecting that. Are you a Star Wars fan? No. Go home. Go home.
Right.
So that was an important message that she had to get out. It was recorded, right? You know, and when you think about like all of our music and our DVDs and CDs, it's recorded on something. But as far as the soul and the spirit goes, it's that something is our ether. It's in the air. It's, you know, it still is there. It's getting recorded on something. It's not a physical object, but it's still there, right? So I'm sure you've probably heard of the Lady in White, right? Every city has one. Every town has one. Usually they say she's the bride that was jilted at the altar, right? Or she's somebody, you know, who was hitchhiking at the side of the road and you stop to pick her up. She gets in the car and you turn around to ask her where she's going to go and she just disappears, right? Maybe in a sense that bride wasn't jilted at the altar, but maybe she's still haunting a particular place because she remembers her wedding day. It was important. It was the day that she was married the love of her life. Not always the fact that she was murdered on her wedding, or, you know. I mean, there is more of an emotional impact to ghosts and spirits rather than just it's all about murder, right? So there really is a little bit of a love story involved with some of the spirits, right? Those are some of the reasons why they stay behind, right? Oftentimes, they are afraid to cross over, you know. Spirits, we can communicate with them. They're the ones that we'll probably chit-chatting with a little bit later on, you know, when we get down to the end there. They're ones that we can talk. Usually we can't see spirits as much as we can sense or feel them. We can hear them. We can feel their energy, you know. The lifting the hand, right? Yep. Hi, yep, spirit. That's spirit. That a ghost ain't going to do that, you know. You know, but like I said, it can be, I can probably take these off now. Yeah. I like it getting dark. No. So a couple of reasons why they can still be back here haunting. They pass away, right? And all of a sudden there's that tunnel with the bright light at the end of it. And they know that they've sinned in their life. They've done some pretty bad stuff, right? They could have murdered somebody. They could have done some pretty bad things. And all of a sudden that tunnel opens up for them and they're like, you know what? I think I'll pass on that. God's going to be on the other side. He's going to judge me and he's going to send me to where?
Down below.
Downstairs, right? Hell or purgatory. So in a sense, they stay back when really that is their purgatory, because they are not able to cross over, as they're not going to go to hell. But it's a perception. It's their perception of it. So if they go in knowing that they've done all these bad things, there will be demons there that they will have to get over. Just like us in real life, if we do things and we carry guilt, we carry a lot of burdens. We're creating those demons already in our mind, right? We have to let it go. We have to forgive ourselves, right, in order to move on and be happy. They could also be back here because maybe, you know, a husband and wife, you know, they were married forever and all of a sudden the wife crosses over and she's gone, but then the husband is still waiting for her. So he's still sitting on that rocker waiting for her to show up and so they could leave together in the afterlife. But she obviously had somebody else on the other side. Right? Right. You know, somebody from a previous life. Right? Yeah. You know, so there's all different reasons, you know, family, loved ones protecting us, right? Maybe, you know, somebody is going through cancer and, you know, they're really, you know, sometimes things aren't looking too good. You know, that family member on the other side is going to be there with them saying, hey, I'm here for you. I'm going to be here for you. If something happens, I'm going to be right there when you cross over. So, you know, they're there to help us as well. So those are just some of the many different reasons why there are a lot of spirits that still do stick around and hang out in haunt places. And then you could just have a hoarder too. They, you know, I call them spiritual hoarders. They don't want to cross over. They're like, I like my house so much. I like all the shit. that's in my house, right? I always forever want that because there's nothing else in the afterlife that would make me happier than all this stuff, right? You know, I just can't move on, right? So yeah, so that's pretty much in a nutshell some of the differences between both of these spirits. So now what we're going to do is we are going to start walking and moving to our next little spot. So this is what they call love locks. This is when a couple, they come together and they, you know, make this seal of their love for each other. It's that commitment, right? So they, see? So they buy a lock, they write their names on the lock, and they'll usually if it's a keyed lock, they go over to the river and they throw the key in the water to forever seal their love. Oh. Right? So there could be two different reasons why they're spirits that do haunt this area, that are seen walking down here. Now, one, say two people are dating, they break up, one of them passes away, right? And the other one just can't seem to, you know, the one that's alive, just can't seem to stop thinking about that person, and it's like, you know, they're ruining my life, they're creating hell, they're in my dreams all the time. Well, it's because that lock is still here.
As a lock, somebody's undone.
No. I'm sorry, I'll put you back together. You know what, you probably broke up.
Yeah.
You're probably happy I did that. So that other person that's alive is in a way being tormented. Like, Jesus, I can't stop dreaming about this person. And it's because that spirit's on the other side going, Jesus, will you just get rid of the lock? You know, we broke up, we're done. Yeah. And even though I'm dead, I'm still here hoping that lock is going to get undone and thrown in the garbage, you know? Right. Or until the city comes in and snaps it all off and throws it away. So in a way, that person is still sitting here just going, please somebody come and do what I just did, you know? So we can just, you know, clear up the air and I won't have to have that burden anymore of our relationship. Or if there was a couple that did live happily ever after, they can often be seen walking down here, forever sealing that love. Remember we made our vows. Remember we put our lock here, and that's forever the day that we'll remember, right? Some people have, some of them might have dates on them. There's you see a lot of great engraving. There.
2018.
But now there has been sightings of a Victorian couple that have been walking across the length of the bridge here. I have yet to see anything, but I know that's been the talk for the most part. And maybe that's, in a sense, what that is, even though they didn't seal that deal on the lock, but they had a lot of happy memories walking over the bridge in London together. They were crossing it. So those are the love locks. Some of the reasons why the spirits can still be seen here haunting it. You'll see the spirit like getting here. Come on! Just get rid of it. You're torturing me. So have you guys just go ahead and just stand in here?
Okay.
All right. So I was telling you a little bit about this original bridge. Now, okay. So this was the old bridge, along with this new bridge here. Now, imagine we're at London at the edge of the Thames River, right? And the bridge is spanning across it. There was, over the lifetime of that Thames River that we know of, almost 7 different bridges that crossed the river. They've all were destroyed by either fires or wars or bad storms. The very first notion had been heard of in a story by some Roman troops saying that the Germans either got across the Thames River in 43 AD by either swimming or by bridge. So, and that was how early that the very first kind of documented, bridge existed. But it wasn't until about the year 1014 where it was documented that a Viking ship was coming up through the Thames River here, And they, of course, wanted to come and conquer, right? So the Londoners were throwing stones down at the Viking ship, and what the Vikings did was they took a big rope and they tied it around the pillars and heaved-hoed all the way back down the river, pulling the bridge down. And they said that is pretty much when the very first song, London Bridge is Falling Down, happened. Right? So I'm going to recite to you that original poem, right? So the whole concept, it was King Olaf, right, of Norway, who joined the Saxons in an attack on the Danish-held London in the year 1014. King Olaf and his oarsmen rowed their fleet up to the timber bridge and attached cables toppling the bridge down to the river. The destruction inspired a Norse poet, Ottar Svarte, to this outburst of patriotic pride, which is, quote, London Bridge is broken down, gold is won and bright renown. Shields resounding, war horns sounding, Hilbur shouting in the din. Arrows singing, mail coats ringing, Odin makes our Olaf win.
Wow.
Right, isn't that cool? And about maybe another 100 years later, there was another version. The same thing, it ended up rotting and getting burned in fire. And it was, wood and clay will wash away, dance over my lady lay. Wood and clay will wash away with the gay lady. Iron and steel will bend and bow, dance over my lady's Leah. Iron and steel will bend and bow with the gay lady. Build it up with stone so strong, dance over my lady Leah. Huzzah, 'twill last for ages long with the gay lady. And then, of course, London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady. Right? So, did you know the whole song of London Bridge is falling down?
Yeah.
I never really knew the whole song.
Look at the light.
What light? What light?
Oh, the light is blinking.
Oh! So, London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady. Now, that's about all I knew. Build it up with iron bars, iron bars, iron bars. Build it up with iron bars, my fair lady. Iron bars will bend and break, bend and break, bend and break. Iron bars will bend and break, my fair lady. Build it up with gold and silver, gold and silver, gold and silver. Build it up with gold and silver, my fair lady. Right? So those are the three different versions of the London Bridge.
I think we sung that when I was a kid.
We always sang it growing up here.
That's so funny.
We sang that as kids.
So here's an image of the London Bridge being built next to that old medieval bridge. It's like an artist's sketch, right?
Yeah.
And you see how close they were. And here are some of the next images of that possible medieval bridge. All right, all those arches, they were so small for smaller ships to go through. There was even a drawbridge. The width of it was about 26 feet wide, in which it was literally cut down to just about 12 feet per lane per side, which was about 6 feet for vehicles and, like rickshaws and different things to go through, and 6 feet for people, the pedestrian walkway. So some of the buildings had almost up to 7 stories. Almost 138 to 210 different shops were in some of those. I love this guy's fall. Whoa!
Luckily, so there was no shark.
Yeah, right. So that's what it could have looked like when they were walking through the actual the shops. How dark it could have been, there's watchtowers on both ends of the bridge, mostly for, to prevent any, war or soldiers, coming in and raids. So, of course, they were protected. So you can see one of them, they had this blockade here, and we got some lollipops up on top of it, right? So, when you get a little closer, you're going to realize that these are actually not lollipops, but instead what they are decapitated heads.
What they got from the Vikings.
Right. So the heads were basically reserved for people who had some pretty big crimes, usually ones that committed treason against the country, right? Queen or king. So people who were like thieves or witches, they would just, be burned or drowned,
Yeah, right.
maybe stoned too. But at any one given time, there could be almost 34 heads up on each one of the watchtowers, and 120 executions every month were happening. But yes, so the very first head that was put up on the spike was in 1305, and it was that of Sir William Wallace, also known as Braveheart.
Right. Right.
And
together.
all right.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty. I have not watched Braveheart, but I did put it on my Netflix list. I have to watch it.
It's worth the watch.
I have to watch it, and I can't believe I didn't watch it. Terrible me. But anyway, so he was, of course, a Scottish patriot and rebel fighting for his own country, and their independence as well. But they would be pretty brutal as well, some of the things that they were doing. Eventually, the soldiers ended up catching him, Britain soldiers, and they ended up putting him on trial, and they gave him his sentence, which was pretty brutal.
Yes.
His sentence basically was being hanged, and but not till he died. They cut him down, and then they put him on the back of a pallet behind a horse and drug him through the city. They castrated him, cut out his intestines and burned them, and then cut his body into four other parts after they cut his head off. So all of his different body parts ended up getting shipped off to different cities in the area. So that was a pretty brutal death. Wow. And his head sat up top on the spike. And what they did with all those decapitated heads, they would parboil them and then pour tar over them to preserve them. Mm-hmm. Yum, huh? Wow. So you can imagine the anger and the rage probably by having that happen to him. So when you think about an angry spirit that's going to be haunting a bridge, why not? Why not him, right?
Right, yeah.
So
He's been done dirty.
yeah, right. So, residual, when we talk about residual hauntings and we talk about, things being in the ether, things being recorded and always being there, when you think about, so a lot of those body parts and those heads, they would get just thrown into the river, right? And all of that, the tissue would decompose and break down into the mud. Well, then eventually when this bridge got built, all that decomposition in the tissue in the mud and all of that was still in the mud. And even though concrete's not that absorbent, it can still hold some residual elements to it. And that's why, for some reason, even though it wasn't on this bridge that his head was put on, but it was a bridge just right there, right next to it, right? Mm-hmm. All that garbage down below is still kind of like, hey, Mm-hmm. Of course, when a house gets torn down, what happens? New spirits are still, they're still going to be there. Right. They start moving in. So that's just some lovely little stories there about Sir William Wallace. He was knighted, of course, for his deeds. In a way, for fighting for Scotland. Mm-hmm. But that does give you an idea of residual hauntings and why possibly his spirit could still be here on this bridge coming over. All right. So now that being said, now we're going to mosey on back down. So when you take a look at the river there, now even though in London, the people weren't able to walk underneath the bridge, right? They cut off right at the edge there, and people were able to take a ferry to go across the river. So there were still stairs that would lead down. And now when we go kind of, let's rewind back a little bit about that old medieval bridge. So with that medieval bridge, there was only one public latrine, right? And it basically hung over the edge of the bridge. And, they never had to worry about plumbing. You can imagine why. So you can imagine all the poop and the feces, everything in the river, as long as well as the decapitated heads and body parts. So, you know, there's a lot of bad juju in the river, right? Lots of bad juju. So, yummy. So we're just going to kind of meowser over here. All right. So in London, it was going through, when this bridge was in London, it was going through its own industrial age. You know, I mentioned the car, a lot of factories, a lot of soap making, a lot of coal was being burned. So the city was pretty dark and polluted, right, during that time. So you can imagine this was pretty much how London looked back in the day, right? And they have a brick at the History Museum that is covered in soot. It literally looks like it was painted black because the soot was so thick. So you can imagine, you know, the people, you know, even inhaling all that air, and the bridge was just, it would have been cool if the whole bridge was black. Right. You know, that would have been awesome, really. So it really left for a lot of different illicit things to be happening late at night because it was so dark, it was so dingy. The east side of London, it had its own series of problems, you know, a lot of prostitution and drugs, and pretty shady area of town. And that also was when there was a string of murders that happened. Around 1888, there were 5 women who were brutally murdered within a 12-week period. And that man known to be murdering these women was a guy named Jack the Ripper. Now, he went on a killing spree, and the women that he all murdered were all prostitutes. And, yummy. It's like, whatever. I've seen worse. Yeah. Right. So, just to kind of give you an idea of, here's this bridge right here, and there's the tower bridge behind it. You can see that's quite a bit of distance right there between the two of them. So here were all of Jack's victims in the red dots. Right. You can see all those red dots there. Right? 5 victims. Now, a lot of people, this is what I'm going to start debunking because of the research that I've done and the things that I've learned. Now, a lot of people say Jack the Ripper is here and haunts this bridge, and they say that often he was seen hiding in the bridge, running from the police after he had committed his crimes, right? Well, now, when you see right here, this is the Tower Bridge. Okay. Right? That H, you see that, like that letter H? That was kind of where the Tower Bridge was. So the London Bridge was probably up over here somewhere, which that's quite a bit of distance for him to run. Yeah. You know? Yeah. I mean, if he's going to kill this woman, he's going to be like running like 1.5 miles through the city, like too obvious. Right? Yeah. Too obvious, right? Serial killers commit crimes close to home. Right. He probably lived right in the center of all that. He knew all the women. I'm sure he would see them walk, and he's like, I'm going to get her. Right? Yeah. I'm going to get her real good. Right? So that is technically my theory, because what would happen, he would slay, you know, kill one of the women, and then he would run just, you know, a couple blocks maybe to his home, go into the apartment, put on a tea, you know, kettle of hot water, and sit down, have his Earl Grey, you know, and then he'd fall asleep, and by the time the police actually found the woman, he was like, right, fast asleep, fast asleep. Right. So that's my debunking. Now, it makes sense, but you know how many men were dressed like that in London? All of them. A lot of them. All of them. So if we see an image if we see a ghost or a spirit of a guy that looks like that, it's probably not Jack the Ripper, you know? It's probably some other guy, you know? Maybe he had fond memories walking across the bridge as well, right? There's also been ghosts of a Bobby, one of the police officers that have been noted walking across, doing their patrol right across the bridge, as well as a woman in a black dress, a Victorian dress that has been known to walk up and down the stairs.
Wasn't it the Bobby that used to be in the car?
Yeah.
There was the
old London taxi they had here.
The old London taxi that was here, and when we were kids, we'd try to focus because there was that story about an old Bobby would sit.
Oh, sit in the back of the car?
Yeah.
In the back seat. That's weird. Not the front seat.
Not the front seat.
Not the
it was
front,
the
it was
back.
the back.
That's weird.
I never saw
That was the story.
That was
well,
the
good.
story. Yeah, that car sat
Yes, that right there.
Now I can use that too. Thanks.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm surprised they took it away.
when they did
probably,
the whole
probably got vandalized. It got vandalized.
Oh, that's too bad.
I don't think it
got
I mean, when
vandalized.
we were kids, it was like, I think because the story preceded it, we never went.
But it was open enough that you could get in it. It was open, you could get in it.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, that thing sat there. I was scared of it as a kid because it goes the Bobby.
Sure. Oh, funny. That's cool.
There's more history to find.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, it's here, now it's gone, but yeah, the stories still remain, you know? So now this is also when I want to talk a little bit about orbs. Now, there's usually lots of orbs that people have gotten when they've taken pictures of the bridge. Usually orbs are natural phenomena. Usually it's dust, it's condensation, it could be a little, flock of bugs, it could be several different things. If it's in your house, it could be your dead skin cells, really. That's all of that stuff. You're walking past a dresser and all of a sudden taking a picture because you think you saw something and you that dust just flies up. Your dead skin cells sitting on your dresser. Usually, orbs have that transparency to them, and everyone says, "Look, there's a face inside of it." It's not necessarily a face. It could be the cellular structure of your dead skin cells that makes it look like a face, right? A spirit's not just going to be a head floating around. It's going to be either a whole, you're going to see a whole glow of something. So here's just some images of dust orbs.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's not a face in there, but so many people want you to believe, like when we see clouds, they're like, look, it's a dragon.
Right.
I forget what the word is called, but it's an association that you make of shapes. So when people see something round and they like to see a face inside of it, like the moon, as well, man on the moon. Yeah, it's like, I want to think it starts with a D or a P. I'm forgetting what the word is. But, so these are moisture orbs. Oh. And you notice they have color, more color.
Yeah.
See, this isn't as colorful. This has color.
Yeah.
Because when you think of a rainbow, rainbows usually occur from the refraction of light against the water, against the mist or something. Rainbows are always happening when it's wet and rainy, right? So the same reason. Now, a lot of times people would say if you saw an orb that had a color, that meant that it was the energy of the spirit, or it was something that was a little bit, more, I wouldn't say colorful, but like a personality. But that wasn't the case. Usually it's because of the moisture and the light refracting. Sometimes, though, if you do see an orb and you can't see through it, there's a possibility it could be energy. But usually, if it's going to be a whole spirit, you're going to see more than likely the whole body. Even though our brains are the most active part of our bodies, it's going to be the one part. They usually, you know what they say our brains are? They say it's an antenna.
Oh.
Our brains are an antenna out there, right?
Oh.
So we're communicating out there, right? And even though they say we're only using 10% of our brains, and that, when you think about that, if we're a radio antenna, imagine that 90% what we could be trying to pick up if we, were able to focus that in a little bit more and hone in on those abilities. So those are our orbs. I usually do tell people, though, get a camera and go around by the bridge, take some pictures if you have really good cameras. Also, if you have equipment, use the equipment by the bridge, too. There could be a lot of energy there, but there's also electricity that does run through it. And I'll show you kind of how to determine some of that when we get a little bit farther down.
Okay.
When we actually use our equipment. So, there have been, just since this has, the channel has been here, there have been deaths in the channel. We've had people die of carbon monoxide poisoning because of spring break and all of the boats here.
Right.
I also was told of an incident where 2 boys were jumping off the bridge into the water, and one landed foot first. He stuck in the mud and drowned.
Yeah.
So I was like, so we definitely do have some,
That was a pretty big deal.
How long ago was that? Do you remember?
20 years.
Oh, that was a while then. Yeah, wow.
Wasn't that the 90s?
Oh,
That was
yeah.
almost 20 years.
Yeah.
What do you think about it? Oh,
It's like 30 years.
No, it's 20 years.
wow.
It was somewhere in the 90s
It was in
when
the
that
90s.
happened. But
Wow.
yeah, and the carbon monoxide, that was around the same time too.
Wow.
Because they would link up their boats together and
Yeah.
just keep them running. And so there was like mass of those pontoon party boats
Oh,
where they
sure.
would be taking body after body after bodies. There wasn't
Wow.
just like one or two. It was
And I tried to, when I was at the History Museum, all of the newspapers to go through there, it's like, oh my God, I'll be here for 3 years looking up this information. And I've tried to look it up online and I couldn't find any information, but I know it's out there and I will find it because I do want numbers.
Yeah.
I want numbers. I want real dates.
Yeah. Yes.
So one of the sheriffs that I was talking with, he's the one that told me the story, and he said that now they have carbon monoxide sensors that are along the channel.
Yes, they are.
So I was like, wow, I don't know what happens if it does. An alarm go off? I forgot to ask him what happens with the sensors.
I think it's a loud. Yeah, it's
it
a
must
loud
be
alarm.
some sort, maybe. Yeah.
And then it alarms the boat patrol.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
One thing that's sad is about not being able to get the information, because I do remember a lot of like tragedy from my childhood here that I can't even Google, like bring it down to
Exactly.
I can't even.
And there's, there's like all of the newspapers are in books like this big.
Yeah.
And I think I just made it through one, and there must be like 30 or I'm like, oh my God, it'll take me so long to get through it. I almost want to think that the very last one was maybe in the 90s that they had printed in there. I don't know how often they keep updating
like
it.
this. With the light.
Oh, look how pretty that is. Cool.
All right.
But yeah, there's a definite seedy area.
Yeah.
Seedy kind of tragedy here as well.
Yes.
And I've always tried to want to do the streets and stuff, because there's a lot of.
Well, yeah, and I'll talk a little bit when we get down further. Now, the natives that lived out on the river here, they were out here for over 2,000 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
And we had 4 different tribes that were out here. The Mojave, the Navajo, the Hopi, and the Chemehuevi. So the 4 of them, they were living amongst the river here. They would live off the land. They would eat the fish out of the river. They would, make the, they would have the plants, use the plants as medicine, and a lot of times, eventually, we'll just kind of have a seat up here.
Okay.
Go ahead. We could just sit right here. Have a seat. Take a load off.
Yeah.
So,
Careful.
Oh, that had to have hurt.
He's not gonna show it though.
No, he's not. He's tough. So a lot of times they would take all these natural plants and they would make medicines out of it. Of course, we had a medicine man who was also called a shaman, right? And they were the ones that would usually dabble in more with the paranormal and the spiritual realms. They would be the healers. They would heal people's souls if people were really bothered or disturbed or something would happen. They would make up this really almost near deadly concoction to take it so they could go into a different trance or state to be able to connect with that person's soul on the other side to help heal them. Now, shamanism is more prevalent today. We had, because of all the whole alternative healing and methods, so we have a lot of people that are really kind of getting back into that, right? Mm-hmm. Herbalism and Wicca and pagans, they're all, all of that is starting to make a comeback.
because it's not so persecuted very much.
Right. I mean, it's just so much. Everyone's like, yeah, you know what? Now it's like doctors are overrated. You know, and that's exactly what it's like. People are like, you know, I think I can heal myself. I'll be fine, thank you. I don't need a $500 aspirin. It's just one of my clients today. She's like, can you believe I paid $500 for one asprin? I'm like, oh, ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right? That kills me.
Yeah.
So the shamans, they would travel through all these different spiritual realms, and they believed in a lot of spirits as well, and you know the energies of the earth, and they were so in tune with the earth. They believed that the mountains and the hills out here held great energy and energetic powers. I'm sure, you know, you guys are familiar with the vortex.
Yes.
And what vortexes are. They're like a whirlpool, you know, a little tornado of air that has an energy. A lot of times it can be a male energy or a feminine energy. Sometimes they can be a neutral energy, or it could be a straight portal all over in general. If you've ever traveled to Sedona, you know Sedona has those 11. And here in Havasu, we have been found to have 9 vortices. And here's a map of those vortices. Now, if you go on LakeHavasu.com, you'll be able to pull up a map of where those vortices are. I went to the Angel Mountain one, which was right here, hiked up it. This one was said to have had a portal. Now, it was super, super windy when I went there, and I really wasn't able to relax too much, but it was pretty risky. But there's like Sarah's Park, or, you know, on the island too, there's a few as well. And there's directions to show you how to get there.
Potty Beach.
Yeah.
You know, it's so weird because I deliver pizzas, but every
Crazy
time I go to
Horse.
Crazy Horse, I've always had such uneasy feelings.
Oh, wow.
Even now, it's like driving around, and it's like, you know, it's just this really like tight. Even when I was a kid, because Crazy Horse used to have a water slide out there, and even when I was a kid, it just always felt so like I'm not supposed to be here.
Oh, wow.
But that was just,
you should look it up, because it will, like I said, it'll tell you what the energy is, if it's feminine or masculine. Maybe for some reason it might be a more masculine energy, and maybe it's not quite feeling right to you. And they say if it has a more masculine energy, they usually tell, you know, guys, if you want to go and meditate there or chill, bring a book, go there, because it will help to enhance, you know, your meditations, and it will make you feel more at peace and at ease.
Yeah,
So
I never liked going there either.
That's
For yeah, we
interesting.
deliver pizza. And it's
Ah.
night, and it wasn't very well lit, and it's more ominous.
But even as a kid, going there to the water slide,
Yeah, it was
just really like, it's bad. But
Wow. But so now there's an excuse.
But now I
to go
know
hiking
why.
or something,
I'm
right?
interested to.
So the gal that ended up finding these, she ended up doing a pendulum on a map, and she did a particular session with the pendulum, and that's how she found all these. I've talked to her, and I've met her. She still lives out here. Her name is Holly Dove. She's a medium as well, and she's a Reiki master. I'm a Reiki master too. So we had a lot in common. She said, I was one who found those vortices, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's great. She used to have drum circles out at one of them all the time.
Yeah.
And then she stopped, I think, just last year or something. She's like, I'm just getting too old, and it's just exhausting.
It is. It's a lot of energy.
Yeah, right. But so there's something you guys can do someday, get together as a family and go on a vortex picnic. Now,
just don't fall in the portal.
Yeah, right. Or don't do anything bad, because she'll throw you up there. Us as people, we also have vortexes inside of our body, and they're called chakras. So chakras, they're 7. They're basically, a chakra is a spinning wheel or a spinning disc. It comes from the Indian, from Sanskrit. And my husband was from India, so I've been to India several times, and I've studied all of these different things. They're basically our energy centers. Like the entire motor and machine of our body is all right here, right? We have our brain, our eyes, our throat, our lungs, our heart, our, the reproductive system, our lungs. So all of that. And if one of those is off balance, then it creates cog in the machine, right? A blockage. So that's when generally you have energy workers and people who do this kind of work to help to reopen that and to get that functioning again. It requires a lot of meditation as well, and some use of your hands and the healing and the energy and the forces and crystals, using crystals as well. All of that comes into play. Now, if you take a particular picture, this is like a thermal imaging camera, and it will just show you how much energy is coming off of just our hands, right? Oh. It's not just our fingers. It comes out about a good half an inch or so, and kind of that feeling when you give somebody a hug, you're just like, it'll be all right, When you cut yourself, what's the first thing you do? If you cut your arm, what do you do? Yeah, you put your hand over it. You're like, oh, right? Because it feels good. Even though you're stopping the bleeding, but it feels good too. And you're like, if I could just hold it here for a while, but I'm going to get sore, right? Just holding it. But that's an instinctive thing for us to do. And that's why they say, with Reiki, that's what it is. It's about healing hands, and it's all about energy work. And this is the energy that is coming off of our body. All the heat that comes out of us, that is energy. And that's why, so now I'll go in to tell you a little bit about spirits, right, and how people can sense and experience and feel spirits, like the whole arm thing, raising the arm. When I was doing a tour in Hollywood, it was a pub crawl that I would do, and I only limited myself to 2 drinks. I would do a toast with everyone at the beginning, and then maybe midway I'd have one more. But I never wanted to drink more than that. I had to maintain my composure. I had to, run the tour, and it would generally be finished like 11:30 roughly, and sometimes if everyone was having a good time, we'd hang out for another half an hour, just have a couple more drinks, or either I'd go and grab a bite to eat, and that's exactly what I did. I was done with the tour one day, and I just wanted to grab a bite to eat on my way back to my car, and it was a little Greek place, right, and I just had like some shish kebabs or something and a Coke, and I got home, and I think I was home by about 1 o'clock, 1:30, and I went to bed, and so let me go back a little bit. One of the bars that we were at, we were getting a lot of activity. It was an old speakeasy from the 20s, and we had been contacting a particular spirit there. All the EMF and the EVP, was just going off like crazy, right? And we believed we had figured out the guy liked whiskey. He was a male figure, and he was maybe in his 40s, if that. Well, all of a sudden, the night ended. I got home, went to bed. 1:30, I went to sleep. When I lay down to go to sleep, I'm out. I'm out until I wake up in the next morning until 9, right? 2 hours later, about 3:30 in the morning, all of a sudden, I had this weird tingling sensation all over my body, and I woke up and I just went, and I was laying on my belly, and my husband was sleeping next to me. My husband doesn't like any of this stuff, right? So, that's my thing. He'll never, he was such a party pooper. He didn't go to any tours or anything with me. He was like, so I divorced him. But, so I all of a sudden got woken up by that tingling feeling, and all of a sudden felt like somebody sat on the end of my bed, this weight. I could just feel my legs go, and I just went, oh no. And the tingling sensation got stronger, and I'm looking, because my husband was on this side, on the left of me, and I'm on my belly, and I'm turning and looking to see if I can see anything, either a glow or a light or a shadow, and that's when all of a sudden it felt like someone came behind me and gave me a bear hug and just went, ugh! Ooh. The air out of my breath just went, oh my, oh. And I couldn't move. I'm like, it was my first night paralysis ever. Oh. Wow. And I was like smiling, going, hey, I'm having an experience. I was happy. It was, this was happening to me. I was so excited. I'm like, yes. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh. And I turned and I'm like, you can't be here. Yeah. You have to go. If my husband wasn't there, I would have said, let me get up, let me turn on my EVP, and let's have a chat. I want to talk to you, right? But because my husband was there, I was like, you have to go. Yeah. And all of a sudden, maybe 3 minutes later, I had a vision in my head. That's what they call clairvoyance, right? Clairvoyance, you always don't physically see something, but you get visions. I had a vision in my head about a police officer walking away. Whoa. From the back side. And he looked like maybe he was in his 40s. and he looked like he was a police officer from the 50s or 60s. More so the 50s. And I went, I bet you that's the guy we contacted at the bar.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I get goosebumps. My eyes like water when I talk about it. That was the first real experience that I had. And what I tell people is, you know, so many people would always say, oh, you know, night paralysis, it's just your muscles locking up and this and that. And I would be like, yeah, they're coming out of a dream. I get it. Well, then it happened to me. And I'm like, no, it's not muscles locking up. What it was, have you ever, like, accidentally, like, put your finger in a light socket or got electrocuted?
Yes.
That is the feeling. It was literally me getting electrocuted. When you do that, your whole body's like, oh!
Yeah.
You freeze. And that's why people die, because they cannot move, right?
Yeah.
That finger's in that socket or wherever they can't move. Their whole body, you know, goes into that state. And that's exactly the feeling that it was for me. It was, never had that happen to me before. You know, I mean, I know people talk about it happening a lot, but that was the first time it happened to me. And what? All of a sudden, just when I started dabbling in the paranormal, I'd never had problems with my muscles. I was in fairly good shape. I wasn't overly working out or anything crazy like that. But it was definitely an experience, and that's what I tell people. Like, do you like the movie Ghostbusters? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Remember at the beginning when he's like messing with the guy in the curly hair?
Yeah.
You know, and he's like, what is it? And he's like, I don't know, a bunch of wavy lines. Yeah. And he kept shocking the guy, and the guy's like, his gum flies out of his mouth. That's the feeling. Yeah. So that's what it is. It's pure energy. That's going through us. And that was the sensation and the feeling that I got out of that. So that was amazing. So when I talk about energy, right, you can imagine it, you know, 10-fold, 20-fold, you know, the spirit, you know, is there, but the body isn't. So you can imagine how strong the energy is because of that, you know. So, yeah. And if you've ever watched Doctor Strange.
Love Doctor Strange.
A lot of people who have never seen Doctor Strange, and I tell them, if you want to watch a movie about all these things that I talked about, intentions, right, energy, healing, all those different things, this is a really fun movie to watch because it involves a lot of that, you know. He's this arrogant doctor. He's like, my hands are messed up. I can't work. And she's like, it's up here. And that's why I tell people, too, a lot of times when people are haunted, it's all up here. You know, you're going to bring home. If you're going to bring something home, it's because you wanted to, and you're allowing it. You know, children really are the ones that have a lot of problems in a way because, you know, a lot of them, they do have imaginary friends, and a lot of those imaginary friends are not imaginary. Usually the parents are the ones that are like, no, you're not seeing anything. Stop saying that. Grandma's not at the table with us. The kid's like, no, Grandma's here. Or, no, I have a new friend, you know, her name is, you know, Evelyn, you know, and I'm playing with her a lot. Well, she probably is up there in that room playing with him, you know, and kids anywhere between the ages of like 2 up until 10 years old, they are able to see spirits because their eyes are still so young and new in the world, and they're able to still pick up that. But eventually when, you know, they start developing a little bit more, those abilities get lost, especially if the parents kind of dampen them, right? And then who knows, the kids will suppress it for the next 15, 20 years until eventually they're like, you know, I think I'm a medium, you know, and then they realize that. So, yeah, so children are very vulnerable to that, and they can be easy victims, too, because there is a malevolent spirit. You know, I'm sure you've seen Annabelle, right? And you know the story behind that. Ed and Lorraine Warren ended up doing that investigation, and it really wasn't the doll being possessed, but it was a male spirit that was moving the doll around, making the doll seem possessed. So spirits can be tricky, right? And I will tell people, you can't let a spirit bully you. They can be like that bully, you know, beating you up for lunch money, right? If you continue to let that bully beat you up for lunch money, he's going to keep beating you up. It's when you stand up for yourself and say, hey, leave me alone. Hey, ghost, spirit in my room, leave me alone. You have to be strong. And that's when I tell kids, you know, if they're dealing, it sounded like someone laughing, that was funny. Tell kids, you know, don't be afraid. You know, you have to stand up and tell them, leave me alone. And that's the same with adults. You know, adults will constantly have that fear too. There's a ghost in my house. I'm fearful of it. Well, don't be fearful of it. Stand up. Tell them to get the hell out of your house, or to leave you alone, or to move on, or to cross over on the other side because your wife is not here anymore. You gotta go. Stop. rocking my rocker. Stop opening my cabinet drawers. Find something better to do with your life. You know what I mean? And it's going to tick them off a lot, but that's the reality of it. They got to move on. But the more we keep like, oh my God, they're going to be like, I'm bored. I've got nothing else to do. Let's scare them another night, you know?
Yeah.
So that's a little bit encompassing all of that kind of jargon that I would talk about. All right, let's move on. But yeah, bullies, boy, they can be something else,
Yeah. Because the ones who've been plagued by them.
Yeah. And it is, and people, they have that fear, and it's like, God, stop it. It's all up here. You're creating it. You're letting it happen.
Hey, it stopped. I grew up. I got attacked, and I was like, nope.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you were there, so I'm not mixed up.
Wow.
Yeah. She got thrown.
Oh!
Thrown and pushed and thrown.
I really like, there's that series called Haunted.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Netflix now has it as well.
Yes.
And I've been watching that, and it's great because they got reenactments, and they got the people that actually, got involved with all of that.
Yeah.
and they'll do their reenactment scenes. So that's a lot of fun to experience that and to hear these stories. And some of them are like, holy shit, like they got the whole family there, intervening. Like, yeah, we all experienced that, and it's like crazy.
Yeah. But it's now happening to our parents. And we're out of the house.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
But it always went dormant.
Yeah. It went dormant for a long time.
It would go dormant, and then it'd come back, and then it'd go dormant.
Wow. Yeah. Was it like a yearly thing or a time thing? You should document it, like the timing of it.
Oh yeah, it lasted for years.
Well, up until we all hit puberty.
Yeah.
And then it kind of went away, and then it'd come back it wasn't like an annual kind of thing. It was just no specific time frame.
Right.
Usually though, it was winter.
Yeah.
That's what I remember the best. It was usually
okay, interesting.
But it wasn't like a yearly or every 6 months.
Sure.
But it was definitely always, especially in the winter time. So yeah, it was pretty.
So as we get a little bit further down now, it's getting a lot darker, and the architects of the city wanted it that way. They did not want light pollution. And that's why a lot of the residential areas do not have a lot of light. So it can be spooky at night. There's been a lot of car accidents, people getting hit and killed by cars, just because it is so dark. But it also leaves for beautiful stars to look up at night, right? We can see the constellations. We can see the full moon. We can see UFOs, right?
Yeah.
So UFOs are a really big part of the whole desert mythology out here.
Especially Arizona.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Arizona ranks number 7 by the National UFO Agency or Center for the most sightings. We've got over 3,000 documented UFO sightings in Arizona since the 50s.
Yes.
The very first one happened in that really made headway was in 1975, an incident in Snowflake, Arizona, up in the White Mountains, where there was 6 guys getting done logging, right, working out.
Fire in the sky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they, now be careful, there's no ring there. I try to tell people, be careful. My luck, one of these days I'll get too close and I'll fall in. They were driving out, and this huge light was up in the sky, and the light shone down on them, and they couldn't figure out what it was. They said it was in the sky, but it was close enough, like that it was like just right there, and the one guy ended up getting out and realizing that he realized this light was coming from an object that was up in the sky, and he was getting a good shot at it, right, and looking up at it, and all of a sudden it pulsated and it knocked him to the ground. It scared the poop out of the other guys in the truck. They all ended up leaving him, and they just drove and took off, leaving their friend behind. Their friend 5 days later was found walking down the highway, and he ended up telling his story about what happened. He was abducted, and he tells a story that there were both humans and aliens, supposedly, that were doing all these different experiments on him. His name was Travis Walton, and of course it became an infamous movie called Fire in the Sky, right?
Yep. A good movie.
Yeah, I remember watching it ages ago. Still to this day, and then the sad thing about things like this, either you got the people that think it's all a bunch of hooey and it's all a bunch of attention, but then you got the believers that are like, no, I know, all right. So of course this guy's life in a way has been ruined. He'll never be able to get a normal job, but now he goes to like UFO conventions and he does all these things and does interviews and talks, but it must be getting boring talking about the same story over and over again.
It could.
So I mean, personally, I don't know what the guy's doing now, but besides it, maybe something else. Who knows? Maybe he's becoming like a science fiction writer or something. There's also another event that happened in 1996 in Phoenix. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yep. It was called Phoenix Lights.
Yeah.
And over 2,500 different Phoenicians ended up seeing this craft, so-called craft, hovering over the sky of Phoenix. There's pictures, there's video footage, there's all this different crazy things that people were witnessing. And about a week later after it happened, the government came out and said, oh, well, that was some of our planes that we were dumping out, some of flares, right? Some parachute flares we were dumping out. And everyone called BS on that because this is what flares look like when they fall out of the sky.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Those are not flares.
Yep.
And they're in alignment, right? So,
Faster.
and what's that?
Some go faster than the others.
Right? Exactly.
And they
yeah.
don't stay in the sky
They don't.
always.
Yeah. And yeah. I mean, it just doesn't make sense that they would say that they were flares. Unless there was like some special flare that was top secret. But that wasn't happening. It was in perfect alignment. There's no way. No way.
And in a circle shape.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Perfect circles. So that was in 1996, and it's still, of course, one of the biggest controversial things that had happened. And just literally a year ago, February, there's an incident where two separate commercial jet pilots had witnessed a UFO that flew up over them in the sky, and they would radio tower back to the FAA, and the FAA said there's absolutely zero flights or planes that should be there at that point. And the FAA even admitted that it was probably a UFO. And it's on audio. It's recorded, so you can listen to it.
Oh.
Yeah. So those are our night skies here, and some of the things that we can look forward to when we look up in the skies. If you like to go UFO hunting for the most part, right? Any UFO fans here?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right. Being abducted by aliens and all that other stuff?
No, I'm not that lucky.
Not that willing.
So that was when I take some of the equipment out and shine the light on a few things here. And I'm gonna go there. So while I'm doing this, I'm going to talk a little bit about our river as well. So the Colorado River spans about 1,400 miles, and it goes through 7 states, 2 Mexican states. It used to dump all the way out to the ocean, but since the late 90s, it now has dried up so much. It's about 100 feet up. Not 100 feet, 100 miles. 100 miles up because of, the population growing and the agriculture, more and more of the water resources are getting used up.
Right.
So it no longer goes out to the ocean. There's a video at the library of a man who gets in a kayak, starts at the Colorado, the Rockies in a sense, and kayaks all the way down. He'll get the dams, he'll take his kayak out, around, go back down, start until it dries up. Wow. So yeah, it's like a documentary that he would have done. All right. I know I usually turn my batteries around so they don't get worn out. So I just gotta put everything.
Yeah, that's a good idea, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that. Yep. All right. So I gotta take all my toys out here. So the first thing I like to talk about is our phones. Our phones are a very nice little piece of equipment here. Oh, I forgot to talk about the river. I was going on and I got distracted. So that river can bring us joy. It can bring us happiness in the summertime when it's really hot. We can jump in it and swim in it and play in it. We can also fish in it. It brings us our meals. And it can unfortunately be a dumping ground too for a lot of trash, including bodies. If you're familiar with The Godfather, you know, be careful what you do or else you're going to be what? Swimming with the fishes. With the fishes, right? So we don't know about any of those things that are out in the lake, but in the 70s, there literally was an article that had said that there were gang members from New York that had come out here to leave the gang life behind and start a new, fresh life. But we know that that usually doesn't happen so much, right? So thuggery can still follow them. So we don't know if of it, any dumpings that were thrown into the lake and swimming with the fishes. But there also is a very, very huge number of people that come out here over spring break, and every year between 5 to 10 people get killed in accidents, boating accidents, from either drinking, being reckless, not wearing life vests. And just last Labor Day was the very last tragic accident that happened. Now, generally every accident that happens, they find the bodies. But Labor Day was the one day where they lost one.
All right.
And they still have yet to find her.
Yeah.
It happened up at Topak. The two boats collided, and 16 people were involved in it. 5 people died. One of the females have still yet to be found. Now, somebody told me they found her head.
Oh, wow.
I didn't hear that.
Right.
They said that they've never released that. But when this woman said that, I went, really? I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, no.
So I don't know. I mean, you know, rumors can start.
Yeah.
So to me, it's a grain of salt, but still, right? Now, one of the guys that I work with, he's a firefighter, and he said that more than likely she probably sunk to the bottom. And if that's the case, usually if her abdomen got ripped open, the water got inside of her system and made her sink. Otherwise, more than likely, a body will float. But they've got everybody except for hers, and they gave up the search months ago.
Yeah.
So somewhere she is going to turn up, right? And who's going to be that lucky person that's swimming out in the lake when that happens? Right? Not me, I hope not. So I brought a special treat with me, and this is called a death whistle.
Oh.
An Aztec death whistle.
Oh, look at that.
Right?
It's skull-shaped.
It's like almost like a monkey skull in a weird way. Now, this was discovered in 1996 in a burial of just one person down in Mexico, and they couldn't figure out what this was or why it was buried with him. Some people felt that maybe it was a tool of war. When sides were fighting against each other, all of this particular tribe would have these, and they would all blow into it, which would deter and scare their opponents, because it literally sounds like 1,000 corpses screaming. And someone else said that they believed that it was a way to call out to the dead to come and collect the soul. So I like that one better, right? But you never know. So I'm going to blow into this because we're going to call out to the spirits to see, basically, let us know. You get scared? To see if they want to come and talk with us. So in a way, I'm going to blow into this. I'll blow into it 3 times just to kind of let the spirits know, hey, we're down here if you want to come and chit-chat with us for the next 25 minutes or so. All right. You ready to hear this little thing?
Yeah.
All right.
Wow.
All right.
So that's the sound.
Wow. That's awesome.
That was awesome.
That's not pretty Creepsville.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So now we put it out there. Basically what we just did was we opened up that Ouija board.
Whoa.
Right? That's what we're doing.
Oh, boy.
You know, and then that's eventually when we do paranormal stuff like that, that's what we're doing. We're opening that Ouija board and saying, okay, come and talk to us. Right?
Yeah.
Only the tools that we have are a little different. Now, the first thing I like to show people is their phones. You can do a lot of different things with your phones, right? Our phones are a very expensive piece of electronic equipment. Spirits are pure energy. They are able to manipulate devices, right? Turn on our lights, turn on our TVs, do all the different kinds of stuff to confuse us, right? So they do have apps. Some of them are so-so. You know, you can only put like 85% really into the apps. But like I said, knowing that these are electronic devices, spirits are pure energy, you can do different things. So we're seeing different colored dots. So basically this is, of course, this is the free version. I have a paid version too, but I show everyone the free version just so you see what it's like, so you can play with it. So generally when you first turn it on, you let it warm up for a minute. Like all this was left over from, Europe. Interesting. So the word that was up there said farm. That was left over from my last investigation.
Okay.
Once you turn it on, like I said, you let it run for a little bit and then new words will start popping up. If you want to learn about the app, just go into the little info button, wherever it is on the screen. Someone scare you back there?
No, it's just there were two.
So you can go to the FAQs and you can read about it and how it works. They say it works off of the quantum flux. A lot of people laugh and like, is it the flux capacitor, Marty McFly? Yeah, well, whatever. But, once again, the sensitivity is high. That's what you want to have it on when you're in a very quiet environment. Like if you're in a hotel, staying in a hotel, put it on highly sensitive. It's going to pick up all the noises. But if you're like at the London Bridge, put it on low because it's picking up all the different background noises and trying to filter all that out.
Right.
So,
Ghost Radar Classic.
yes. So better. That's a new word that just popped up. I didn't say better. I didn't even say Europe either. Actual. Nice. So red generally is a warmer energy, like a hotter energy, something that might be closer, a little stronger. Blue is cooler. Greens and yellows generally are somewhere in between. Now, when I talked to a medium, she said she believed that green and yellow were the distinguishing factors between earthbound spirits and ghosts. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Yeah. That was pretty cool concept. Yeah. So it does have some sort of authenticity, because when I was working in Georgia at Savannah at the haunted property, we had a spirit named Paul. And he was one of the store managers in the late 1800s out there, right? And we would have conversations with them. When we'd walk into the property with we'd have the EVP, on, and the speaker was on, and spirits would say our name. Kind of like, hi, you'd hear Kim, like, hi Kim, like, welcome back to work, like greeting us and stuff. So anyway, this shop owner named Paul, we usually contacted him and connected with him almost every time. We'd see his name pop up, or we'd hear his name pop up, and I had my phone, and it was in my purse, and I forgot to shut the Ghost Radar off. I was driving home. I had left, and all of a sudden, I heard Paul's voice come through here. Well, it wasn't his voice. It's a computer-generated voice. I think right now I have the volume off for the voice. Okay. It will literally say actual, like in a computer voice. Right. So I heard Paul with the computer voice, and I went, oh my God, I screamed. I'm like, are you coming home with me? He was coming home with me. No. And I'm like, my husband's home. He's not going to like that. So there really is some validity to it. So if you don't have equipment, this is fun to use. I tell people, never do this in your house unless you're strong enough, right? And you can get past it. A lot of people will do these things in their home, and they get freaked out because things make sense and things will come up that freak them out, and then they remove it. They remove the app because they get spooked out and scared. The best places to do your investigations, once again, bars, playgrounds, theaters, I mean, I'm sure down along the channel, like I said, we got a lot of people that died down here, a lot of also happy memories of people walking, maybe every day they'd come down here, walk their dogs, or, do family time down here. So I think the channel is probably one of the most haunted places out here, and it's the perfect place to go. I like bringing people here because it's less congested. Otherwise, we'd walk down by Kokomo's and all that down there, and there's a lot of people down there. But if you're going to go down there one night, go there later. Sometimes I would even run at night or take a walk, and I would park at Rotary, walk up, go over the bridge, all the way back down, past the dog park, walk back up, run over the bridge, and then I sat and did an investigation right at the lake, and I was getting a lot of stuff. So, and I was the only one. I was all alone. And it must have been like 8:30 at night, and I was like, ooh, this is scary. I love it. I'm the only one down here. So that's a perfect time, go out late. Like if you guys are done, download this app, go down there, see what you can pick up when you walk down the other side of the bridge,
Okay.
I wish I knew where the bodies were being pulled out of, when all those people are dying of carbon monoxide poisoning. And like, where were they parked? Were they parked down here, or were they parked down there? So those are things that I'd like to know,
Yeah.
But, so that's Ghost Radar. It's a free app. It's great. The other thing that you have on your phone is your voice memo recorder. Just about every phone has one.
Yes.
You could do, this is what we call a straight EVP from this, right? And basically, you would just walk and talk, even sit down and just say, hello, are there any spirits here? And pretend you're having a conversation, right?
Okay.
And do you know who I am? What's your name? And then introduce yourself. My name is such and such. And repeat yourself maybe after about, 8 minutes, 10 minutes of chit-chatting, if you want to go back and start all over again, because sometimes there's always not going to be a spirit right there, standing there when you're doing it, right? So you give it time, ask the questions all over again, maybe at that time, okay, then maybe they'll come down, come over, whatever, and then they might want to talk to you. So ask questions all over again, and then shut it off, go call into bed, put your headphones in, and play it back before you go to sleep.
Oh.
Thank you. Because you might hear voices come back through here.
So there'll be no sleeping that night.
Yeah. So, all right. So have you guys heard the audio that I ended up taking down here?
No.
There's a spirit. I have this. The spirit basically said, do you see me? Let me turn it up. All right. I don't know how good this is going to come through. To talk with us through this device we have, so we can hear your voice.
Oh my God.
You got that? Did you see me?
Yeah.
Wasn't that creepy? Oh, okay. I'll do that again. I turned it up. No, I don't want to delete it. No! Damn it! No. Well, I shared it on social media, so it's there. Okay. It's out there. Oh man.
Oh.
Not here. Yes, that was here. That was here.
Gosh.
January 12th. Oh, you know what? It was this EVP right here. I found it within that 8 minutes of footage and put it on there. So it didn't get lost. It's still there.
All right.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
But yeah, crazy, yeah.
Oh boy.
God, that was so distinct.
Yeah.
To this channel here? Are you attached to the city? I don't remember. Ooh. Okay. Are you attached to this channel here? Are you attached to the city? Yeah, is that a yes?
Yes.
Or city? City?
City.
City, yep, that's what it sounded like. Oh, okay, I won't do that. From the city. All right. So anyway, so you got to hear it. I shared it on my social media. You can hear it better there too and share it. But yeah, you really get to hear some really creepy things.
Wow.
So that's what we call a straight EVP when we're doing it through our phone. That was through the equipment here, but that's what you can do with your phones. So now I'm going to show you an EMF detector and how that works.
I can see one. I haven't seen one.
So EMF detector stands for electromagnetic field. Contractors and electricians used to use these back in the old days to look for either power outages or overages within a property. They would find out where the hot wires were or the hot lines, were behind the walls, so they could do any repairs if need be. And one day, all the electricity was out in a house, and all of a sudden the equipment started going off, and the guys were like totally miffed, like, why is this going off? There's no electricity on the house. It's dead. It's a dead house, And that's when they started to get a little freaked out about it, and then the word got out, and then the paranormal investigators came around, and they're like, yeah, wow, this is a great tool to use to look for spirits, So it now is one of the most used pieces of equipment when doing paranormal investigations. So when I turn it on, you're going to see a light zip up and down. That just means it's powering up, and it's going to go to green. Green is default. Green means there's absolutely nothing, no energy or nothing that is surrounding me. So I'm going to turn it on. If it starts flickering and going off, then that means something's here. So no, we're good. Just green, right? Now if you have your phone close by, right, it's going to make it go off.
Yeah.
So you try to make sure all of your electronic devices are far enough away from it when you use it. And when you do use it, you're going to hold it out, right? Don't put your hand on the button. You just put it down a little bit lower. And then you can start having a conversation asking, if there's any spirits here with us, can you touch this green light or get close to this green light? A lot of times spirits don't like to get too close, to you. They like to keep their space as well, And your arm might get sore here. Once again, they're not always going to be standing there waiting for you to hurry up and take that out. You got to coax them a little bit. Let them know, I'm not going to hurt you. It's okay. We just want you to communicate with us. And if you're here, can you touch this green light? And then if all of a sudden you just see it flicker just the slightest bit, you'll know that there was some form of energy that came by through here. So then you can start having conversations. Are you a male spirit? If you're a male spirit, can you get close and touch that green light? And if you see nothing, are you a female spirit? And all of a sudden the light starts flicking, you're like, yep, we got a female that's here with us. So that's how you can use it for questions, for using it as questions. It's yeah, I saw that. Sometimes if you shake it, it didn't move, right? So, and sometimes I have to do that. I'm like, nope, okay. So one time it was going off like crazy down here, and I'm like, and when you do that, you do have to if you're in a house, run it down on the floor. A lot of times there's electrical wirings underground. Yeah. Even at one of the outdoor properties, it was underneath the pavement. Electrical wires. You'd put it down and it would start going off. You're like, okay. So you have to rule everything out, right? Make sure you're in a clear zone where you know that nothing is affecting this. So you do. That's why they call it investigating, right? You have to rule out all other options. So that is how this works. So now I'm going to hook up this next device. Same thing. Batteries backwards. I have to keep my nails short when I do massages, and it's really difficult. Yeah. All right. So this is our trusty spirit box. Oh. All it is an AM/FM radio. Oh. It's not a phone. People still like to talk into it. It's not a microphone. It's a speaker. It's an AM/FM radio. You can't talk into it. But it's habit, and we have a little thing in our hand to do this. Right? Spirit is all around us. So when you do talk to them like this. Hello, are you here next to me? Are you behind me? When that spirit said, do you see me? I'm like, where are you? I'm like, that was the creepiest thing ever to hear. So when we turn it on, all it is, like I said, AM/FM. We put it on AM. AM has the least amount of frequencies and wave, like there's not a lot of AM radio stations versus FM, right? So we put it on AM because we have more white noise. What white noise is energy. It's energy for the spirits to be able to latch on and to use it. How they get a voice out of that still baffles me, right? Somehow they are able to have a voice. So get it set. And make sure, I gotta turn the volume up. It always goes back to a default volume, and I hate it. And then I have to shut it off, kickstart it again. So all this equipment I have on my website. So if you want to know what it is, because you want to buy your own stuff. So you're just going to kind of hear. I'll eventually hook up to the speakers here, but it's just showing you. We scan it. It scans through all the channels. And then when it gets to the end, it starts all over again. Right? And that click, click, that static you're hearing, that's the white noise. That's it moving to the next frequency. So when you think of phone lines, it's a different phone line. So you'll get a different spirit on each phone line, right? And if they're strong enough, they'll come through quite a few different phone lines. And that was like the best EVP I ever had. I ended up picking up a female spirit, which I believe could have been Peg Entwistle, the gal who jumped the Hollywood sign. When I was doing my tour in Hollywood, her voice came through, and it was phenomenal. It was the biggest trip ever. So, so now I'm going to hook this up. So basically, you can ask the spirits any questions you want. Think about when you meet somebody for the first time. What do you ask them? You know, hey, what music do you like? You know, what's your favorite color? What's your name? A lot of times spirits want to tell you their name. The minute we turn this on, sometimes we'll start hearing Steve, Mike, John, whatever, you know. And when we start to do this, okay, if you're recording, you can use your phone recorder to record the session, right? Like I did the last time. I usually didn't record my sessions because sometimes it was just too much work to listen to half an hour of footage every night. I had other things to do, you know. So I would just send it to people. I'm like, here, go through it, listen to it if you want, you know. But you have to know whether it's a radio station or whether you're getting genuine spirit. If you ask, what's your name, and all of a sudden you hear Mike, you're like, okay, what radio announcer just coincidentally happened to say a name? Right? What's your favorite color? Blue. What? Okay, yeah, no. Obviously, that's not a radio station either, right? I had somebody question ham radio and how sometimes that can be picking things up. And I said, but this is not a microphone. I'm talking into the air around me. How is it somebody on another side, another frequency, is hearing that? I said, so I'm debunking you right there. Right? This is literally the spirits that are here in this vicinity that we are talking to, and they're answering us. Never ask for a family member by name. Don't say, Mom, are you here? Or, you know, John, are you here? Like I said, spirits can be tricky, right? They're bored, right? They're happy somebody's here to talk to them. They'll be whoever you want, right? So instead, always ask, who is here with me? That's the best way to get an authentic name. Like I said, you can ask whatever you want. So what I'm going to do, turn it on. We're going to listen. And if we start hearing things right away, we can start responding, right? But then usually what I'll do is I'll ask the spirits if they remember who I am. And if I don't hear them say my name, then I'll introduce myself. Usually they will repeat my name after I'll say it. And then I'll point to each one of you guys, and you guys can ask, do you know who I am? Because then we can find out if you have an attachment. Oh, right? Yeah. So first ask, do you know who I am? And then if you don't hear anything after a minute, then introduce yourself. Okay. You know, and then same thing. And then we'll move around, and then I'll let you guys ask some questions. I got that a little fast. Sounded like plan. Yeah. We all hear it. It's funny. We'll all hear different things, you know.
I heard plan.
Yeah. Plan.
Or clam.
But it's a female spirit. Usually females don't come through as much because the men usually dominate. Yeah. Females can be back a little bit. I had a female say my name, like straight up. She said my name one day, and I was like, oh! Yep. These were children's voices. Oh. Everyone gets creepy about that. Yeah. Right. Hello, spirit. Good night. Or say hi. Say hi. 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 See, and that's good for you. You can play it back and be like, what do they? So you can tell that's the radio. You'll know when it's a radio station. And the same thing goes for having your phone close to this. It'll affect this as well. So. Yeah. Are there any spirits that want to come down and talk with us? Maybe it's too cold.
I heard maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. Any spirits want to tell us your name? Do any spirits remember my name?
Indy.
That's interesting.
Hello, Indy.
Indy? Indian? My husband's from India. Indy. That sounded weird. Do you hear that static? Generally a voice comes right around that. That's usually what I've noticed. When you start hearing a little bit of static, so that's why when you do hear it, then you're like, and I've been so used to that.
Frank.
Frank. Hi, Frank.
You good?
Almost, yeah. Hi, Frank. Where are you from? Well, if none of you spirits remember my name, it's Kim. Oh my gosh, you have no need to I hear that so much. You usually hear them say, I'm behind you.
Don't do that.
I've forgotten about that for the longest time. I would hear that a lot. Yep. Wow. Or you might hear them say, get out. And I'm like, sorry, no, you're not going to scare me. Or I'm God, or I'm the devil. I'm like, that's great. Yeah. Whatever. You have fun with that. We're still going to be here for a bit. All right. See, they like to be silly and tricksters, you know. All right, so no spirits remember my name.
Wait. It said wait.
No, it sounded like oh or something. Oh, so now this is what I'm going to ask you guys, right? So you go ahead and
do you know my name?
I know, right? Maybe introduce yourself. Go ahead.
My name is...
Gina.
Was that a hay?
Yeah.
Oh, sounded like a hay, right?
Hey.
Hi. Hey. That's cool. I could hear that static coming through too. I was like, cool.
Yeah.
All right, next.
Do you know my name? My name's...
What up? What up? Wow. Cool. Good dealio.
What up, spirits?
What up? That's funny.
I have fun, spirits.
Oh. Sounded like someone was going to come through. Go ahead.
Do you know my name?
I heard a light, quiet voice. What? I didn't hear it.
I heard Maya.
Oh, spirit.
My name is... Hi.
Another hi. Yeah. Hey, you almost sound like
Hey,
hey.
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 Was that a child's voice?
Yeah.
Hey, how are you? All right.
What up?
If there's any children here with us, can you tell us your name?
Yeah. One's good. Ghost friend. But you can't come home with me.
Right. All right. So at this point, then we can start asking questions. So, and then get a little bit more.
I didn't hear it.
Get a little bit more fun. Maybe somebody's like, yeah, right? So I usually will like to ask, how many spirits are here with us?
8.
I thought I heard 3 too.
Yeah.
A lot of times they'll say 100. I'm like, that's great.
Yeah, because there's 3. Well, we got our Frank. Frank, are you the one that said what up?
Yeah, I heard 3 too. That was cool. So think of a question you want to ask them, and do you want to ask them anything?
What did it say?
I heard Nate. Like Nate, almost.
Nate?
Were you the one that said it?
Okay. Okay.
How old are you? Can we ask that?
Yeah, of course. You can ask whatever you want. I've even asked cool questions like, what's it feel like on the other side?
Oh.
You know what I got? Dreams. And
What? Mean. I heard mean. Exact? Exactly?
Like that, maybe I was talking about the other side.
Yeah.
What else does it feel like on the other side?
What color is my bracelet? Oh, my.
Didn't sound like...
Danger. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Danger, Robinson. Danger. Uh-oh.
There's no danger. This is a ghost.
Have questions and answers?
Yeah, are there any spirits from the 18,000s here?
18,000?
1800s.
Wow.
Math, whatever.
Okay, we get it. So what this is a trigger object. Usually a lot of times it's used to attract children.
Oh.
And it's something that you can hold in your hand and ask, you know, can you see what I'm holding?
Money.
I heard it say radio.
I heard it say that's funny.
Oh. So, are there any spirits here that can see this little animal that I'm setting down on the ground? Can you tell us what it is or what color it is? So if any of you want to play with that. That was creepy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It sounded like a growl.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the chupacabra that's hiding out in the bushes. Help?
It's okay. We're safe. We're
Did
not
you hear
ghosts.
somebody say help? Yeah. A lot of times, spirit, you'll hear them say help me or save me. Somebody need help? You are? It was either viewers, and if that's the case, it was a radio. Walking behind us, walking towards us.
Which way are we walking? Oh, there's people walking there.
Oh. All right, so why don't you hold it? Now that it's in your control. Because a lot of times, sometimes Spirit's like, I don't want to talk to her, she's holding it. So sometimes by passing it around, you can ask a question and see if they'll be more receptive to you.
About here?
Are you next to us? Whoa. What was that? Truck? That's what I said. Truck? He sounded like truck? Yeah. Sounds like I heard it again. Yeah. Somebody's in a truck somehow.
What color truck?
Any spirits want to tell us what your favorite color is? Yellow? Yellow. Maybe. I don't know. You'll have to go back and listen to it.
And my recorder stopped recording at that point because it was a little shy of 2 hours. But she ended the EVP session by saying thank you to the spirits and goodbye to the spirits, and to say that we didn't want any of them to come home with us. So it was a very entertaining tour. The EVP session was what got us excited and more fascinated with the spirit box, especially Little Boom Doom. He had such fun doing that. So if you ever get an opportunity to go on a ghost tour and you're interested in the paranormal, I recommend that you go. And if you live in Arizona, Lake Havasu City, you talk to Kimberly Christine and you will have the most fun learning about ghost spirits and the history of the London Bridge. And that wraps up this episode featuring Kimberly Christine, paranormal investigator and ghost tour guide. Be sure to check out the links on where to reach her in the show notes, as well as our WordPress page, emztradio.wordpress.com. And stay tuned for another episode of EMZT Radio for Women in Horror Month.